Hello and welcome to the London Stadium for round 5 of the 1996 Speedway Grand Prix. Down in the pits then, first class, and that's what we're going to get tonight. The top action in the penultimate Grand Prix here in London. It was here at Hackney last year that Speedway had a wild and wonderful climax to the 95 Grand Prix series. At the first London Grand Prix ever, the action never stopped. Drama and controversy were key words in 1995, and Hackney had it all. From World Championship leader Hans Nielsen crashing out of his first heat, to the then current world champion Tony Ricketson breaking his collarbone and kissing his title goodbye. And Thomas Golob's discovery that Craige Boyce is not to be messed with. It was a great night for the fans, but not for Thomas Golob. Victory at the British Grand Prix went to Greg Hancock in 1995, but the series belonged to the Professor, Denmark's finest. Hans Nielsen collected the first Grand Prix World Championship, his 4th Speedway World title. Nielsen leads in 96, but it's close. Billy Hamill is just 7 points behind. Tony Ricketson is only 2 points further back. The Super Swede is a fighter and wants revenge on Nielsen. A British rider's yet to make an A final. Mark Loram and Chris Louis have been close. The whole of London will hear the cheer if they make it today. And a big welcome to you and the London Stadium. Our studio is packed here today with talent, some of it that would prefer to be out on the track, of course. Kelvin Tatum, Gary Havelock, and of course, Barry Briggs. It wouldn't be the same without you, Barry. But Kelvin, great night last year at Hackney. Same again for tonight, do you think?
I think it could be better, actually, Keith. The weather's been kinder to us tonight, and I think the track's going to ride better, and I think it could be a really, really exciting evening. Gary, I know you prefer to be out there rather than in here, but you've been out there speaking with the British riders, making sure they're all okay?
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I think the Brits have struggled quite a bit this year, but hopefully tonight with the home support, you know, they're going to really try and pull out the bag, and it'd be fantastic to have a British winner here.
Barry, it's building to a crescendo over our shoulders here outside the studio. We're going to cross live in a moment to the pictures out there. But again, Hackney this year, you think much better than last year? It's full of drama last year.
Last year was special, but weather's good and it's going to make a big difference. And the other thing, is there a chink in Hans' armour? Hamill's breathing down his neck. Will Hans respond to it? That's the thing that I'm really looking forward to.
Well, just a few points in it between the top men. We're looking now at live pictures. This is the Riders' Parade. We can go now down to Julian Ryder and Peter Collins inspecting the track here at Hackney.
Thank you, Keith. It's difficult to remember that this time here last year was the first ever Speedway meeting at the new London Stadium. And now we've got glass-fronted restaurants. They're watching us on monitors up there. Thousands of fans in the restaurant, new stands, and it's very nearly a full house. I have with me, as usual, Peter Collins. PC, it's been raining on this track all week, yet they've been watering it again. How do you see the state of play?
Yeah, Julian, the track's absolutely perfect. That's the ideal conditions you need. It's rained really hard all week. It's soaked right down through to the base. The base is soft, so there's going to be some good dirt through the meeting. The bit of water on top just to keep the dust down, but we're going to have some fantastic racing, I'm sure.
Close to ideal, then?
Yeah, and all the lads are really going for it because this really matters, this British GP, and let's be shouting for the English lads.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Keith, back to you.
Julian, as ever, excited. Let's take a look then at let's explain, should I say, how we score here for the Grand Prix. 6 rounds. We're in the 5th, of course, tonight. 16 riders, including 1 wild card and 2 reserves. 20 heats to qualify for the 4 finals. And the A final is the one you pick up the major points in. If 2 riders tie on points, the heat they met in decides the placing. In other words, whoever beat who in the heat goes through. The Grand Prix series has got better and better, and victories are harder and harder to achieve. Here's a reminder of the 96 Grand Prix winners. Hamill, and there we are, working in the pits then. Hamill looking for another win this year if he possibly can. So plenty of frantic activity going down on the pits. Let's take a check on the standings after 4 rounds. Hans Nielsen has a lead of just 7 points. Superb battles going on here. Billy Hamill picked up the pace just when it counts to win the last round. He's on 70 points. Tony Ricketson only 2 points further behind. For my money, he is the man this year. Henka Gustafsson, well, if only Henka had had a better ride earlier on in the year, he'd be right there. He deserved the last round, but Hamill pinched it in that A final. Hancock is in 5th place. He is Hamill's teammate. Tommy Knudsen is back tonight. He's in 6th at the moment. Chris Louis, the best of the Brits, is in 7th place on 39 points, just 2 points in front of Peter Carlson. Thomas Golob, he's here tonight. Well, that's controversy indeed. A lot of people want to talk about that later on. Gary Havelock, well, he's in the right place for finding out what's going on. He's here with us in the studio, but he's in 10th place in the championship. Not one that he would have liked to have been in. Top 8 would be favourite. Sam Emelianenko, 11th. Mark Loram is 12th. Joe Screen, well, he's got a lot of work to do tonight, and he's on 25 to 1. I can tell you the odds for Joe Screen. That's remarkable. Leigh Adams, Craige Boyce, Andy Smith, Marvin Cox, Jason Crump, Gert Rist and Stefano Alfonso round off the top 20 in the standings after 4 rounds. Round 5 we are at, Kelvin, and the championship, unlike last year, is extremely close.
Well, actually, Linköping did us a favour because Hans having a bad meeting and Billy obviously having a very good meeting has closed it all up and has made it really exciting for the English GP. I think that the real question mark over this meeting is whether Hans can bounce back from his poor performance in Linköping, and is there a chink in his armour. I think it's also, for the other lads, there's an opportunity tonight to actually take a big step forward to being world champion. I was going to say, Gary, forgetting the world championship at this point in time, but British riders, can they pick up the pace? Can we have a British winner tonight? No one's ever been in the A final yet.
No, I certainly hope so. And you know, I've had a word with all the lads before, and they seem all really fired up. And let's hope that one of them can pull it off. You know, I'd really like to see it.
So would we. Well, Barry usually gets the last word in here. Barry Briggs, of course, I'm talking about, but he's not going to get a chance on this particular occasion. And I wonder whether he remembers personally our next bit of footage. We're going off for a break. See you in a moment.
I always pray.
Prepare themselves.
I always focus on the game.
To face England one last time.
I'm going to make sure the ball goes out of the ground.
In the 3rd one-day international, with England determined to finish the summer in style, having already made the Texaco Trophy theirs.
That's out!
But Pakistan still have their pride to play for. The Texaco One-Day International Series, tomorrow at 10:30, live on Sky Sports 2.
Now Orbit is even more refreshing, even cooler, even fresher. Sugar-free Orbit, now even more refreshing.
Beauty. From the first time you use it. Organics Root Nourishing Shampoo.
If you pay off your credit card every month, or every other month, you can afford to ignore this commercial. However, if like me, and 9 million others you don't, you can't. Like other credit cards, Royal Bank of Scotland MasterCard is recognised and accepted all over the world. But this card is different from most leading credit cards. Because Royal Bank MasterCard has always charged 14.5% APR. Check that against Lloyds Access, Midland Visa, Barclays Visa, or NatWest Access. That's about 50% more than Royal Bank MasterCard charges. There's no annual fee, and you needn't even bank with them. Interested?
For more information on Royal Bank MasterCard, telephone 0800 16 16 16 now.
New. Right Guard's working hard when you are working hard, but when you're working hard, so's the Right Guard. When you're working harder, Right Guard's working harder, but when you work much harder, woo, so does the Right Guard. When you're working harder, right guy's working harder, but when you work much harder, woo, so does the right guy.
You can't work as hard as new Right Guard with body heat reactive microcapsules.
For an instant quote on household insurance, phone NatWest on 0800 24 24 25. No forms, no fuss.
Hey, boys. Wanna play?
Oh, she's totally committed. Major independence. But she's a lady through and through.
You are so good.
She gives them quite about all they can handle. She'll do some, she'll hurt some too.
Xena, right?
That's right. Oh! They love to watch her strut.
Those boots, that leather, those legs.
In spite of all the talk, once she stops and walks, a lady will be all ever dream.
Nice try.
Oh! They do it.
You embroider. I like her energy.
I really hope I don't have to kill her.
A woman with the strength of 10 men.
See now, Warrior Princess, coming soon on Sky 2.
What a night it's going to be. Hackney is full, the London Stadium then, for the 1996 British Grand Prix round. And really, we are in for an absolute treat tonight. The only difference being on last year so far is it's absolutely dry, which has got to be the way to go indeed. Will Hans Nielsen manage to pull away in the World Championship, or will Rickardson and Hamill catch him and pass him? We can't wait to find out what's going to go on. Let's see how the riders line up then tonight. Heat 1 looks like this. Rickardson, it is, out for an early battle by the look of that. Billy Hamill is out there as well with him. Chris Louis as the fireworks go off behind us here. Joe Screen is also out there in yellow and black. Heat 2, Peter Carlson, Sam Hamill&Hancock, Greg Hancock and Craige Boyce. That, I think, is going to be a battle between those two. We'll have to wait and see if Sudden Sam's back on the pace. Leigh Adams, he's looking for a bit more luck this year so far in Heat 3. He rides in red. Andy Smith's out there in blue. Hans Nielsen is in yellow and black and will be looking to not repeat last year's first round fall-off that he had, obviously, last year. Mark Loram also out there in Heat 3. Heat 4, Thomas Golob, Jason Crump, Tommy Knudsen is back and riding here after his broken collarbone. And Henka Gustafsson, he is the best man not to have won so far this year. Perhaps tonight's his night. We'll have to find out. Well, the only one thing on that last one, of course, is whether Golob can be out there with Boyce. We won't see that until much later on in the night, Kelvin. But Hans Nielsen, what a man he is, isn't he, Kel?
Yeah, you know, he's a true professional, you know, keeps coming back year after year and producing the goods. He's under a bit of pressure tonight, though, and I think, you know, he's got to reach down deep and pull out a big performance tonight, because I think there's one or two really chasing him hard now.
Well, let's take a look at his profile then and see how Hans Nielsen shapes up this evening. Well, we know he's a Dane, and we know that his GP standing is in first place at the moment. We call him the Professor here, and I think that's something that he deserves. 3 times a world champion, that's the individual world championship, and of course Grand Prix champion from last year. 7-2, and Gary, have a look, the man in the studio here, that's his view. The ultimate professional, I think everyone will be going for that. Barry, would you disagree?
No, you couldn't disagree with that. He's done it for so long, and he just keeps doing it. Tonight's going to be a little test.
Anything you'd like to add to your view there, Gary? Have a look.
I think what Barry said there, a little test. I think tonight's going to be a very big test for Hans. I think, you know, he knows he's got Voyance coming up, which is a track he rides well, and tonight could be it. You know, if he can put down a good performance tonight, he's going to be favoured to take the title in Voyance. But if he slips down at the B final or C final again, then you know, the door's going to be wide open for the other guys.
Well, the man that's only 7 points behind him is Billy Hamill, the American. He's on good form. Just 26 years old, and he's second in the championship. As I said, 7 points behind. Won the Swedish Grand Prix 96. 3-1 the betting for him. Kelvin, got any money on him?
Well, maybe I should do, actually. I haven't, but maybe I should do, because he is riding extremely well this year and very aggressive. This type of circuit suits his style of riding. It's got to be pretty red hot to win tonight. I think he's going to take some catching, but you know, it's pretty open. But I think that Billy's going to be one of the guys in the A final.
Well, the next man we've got profiled for you is the man that I think deserves a win, especially tonight. If the Brits aren't going to do it, Rickardson is the man for me. Tony Rickardson, Well, he was the world champion going into the Grand Prix last year. He lost it to Hans Nielsen. Barry Briggs, this man is about due, wouldn't you say? I think 6 to 1's reasonable odds for such a man.
I think so. I think he's tempered. He's got himself a lot more together than what he was last year. He's not doing some crazy stuff, but it seems in the final he's inclined to rear, but he's coming from last to fourth in the B finals, but he needs to get in the A final and win something. And he can still put the pressure on now, even so late in the season.
Well, of course, talking about getting into the A final, it's the all-important thing. It's the British round tonight. What about the British riders? Chris Louis, of course, is our favourite. That's 27 years old. He's 7th in the championship standings at the moment. Best Brit at this point in the series, but of course, my feelings are that he won't be happy with that. 14 to 1, Chris Louis is a real racer. If you'd seen him in the England-Australia match races earlier on in the year on Sky Sports, then you'll know why I say that. He really does not give up till it's all over. As the temperament, machinery and experience, our best hope. Well, it looks like I've obviously been reading Gary Havelock's predictions there. Gary, would you like to elaborate on that? Can we get a Brit win out of Chris Louis?
I certainly think so, yeah. You know, Chris is a real racer. I've seen him sort of grow up together through the Speedway, and I've seen him riding for years. We've rode together, and, you know, he's one of the best racers around out there. But, you know, tonight's going to be difficult. The track's it's quite a tight track here at Hackney, and, you know, gating's going to be so important, and just hope that one of the Brits can sling, you know, a few starts together, get to the A final, and then pull one out the bag.
Well, that's what we're going to have to look for in a moment. You saw Tony Ricketson getting ready there, the man who's second in the series at this point in time. We are just minutes away from the start of the British Grand Prix. Quick prediction then, Kelvin Tatum, who are you up for in the A final? Who do you think's going to win the A final?
I think that Billy Hamill's not going to be far away, but I'd like to see Tony Ricketson win tonight.
Gary, have a look.
I'd like to see a Brit win, but I think Henka will be pretty close.
Barry?
I'm the same as Kelvin. I think that Hamill's going to be right there with a sneaking feeling on Ricketson.
Well, I think Chris Louis is going to make it into the A final. What he does with it is anybody's guess, but I think Louis' night is going to be tonight. We can go now to our commentators, Peter Collins and Tony Millard.
You join us up here, high up in the arena, high up above the starting gate as we wait for the lads to come out now. And it is going to be a highly competitive first heat here with Billy Hamill, of course, in gate 2 and Tony Rickardson on the inside of him. Those against the two Brits, Chris Louis and Joe Screen. And, of course, Chris Louis having started his career down here, and Joe Screen will be the men the Brits are cheering for. Peter Collins alongside me will be cheering for them equally as well, I'm sure. Peter, have they got a chance against Hamill and Rickardson?
Well, I think Billy Hamill's the man to beat here, but we've got Joe Screen and Chris Louis, and they're going to be really going for it today. I'd really like to see one of the English lads do real well. I mean, we really need it at this stage.
Well, we're just about to get underway. The nerve ends are jangling. The pit gates are shut. There in the white helmet colours is Chris Louis, trying to get a bit of a feel of the track. And we certainly know he's first up to tapes there in the white helmet colours. He'll be going from gate number 3. There is Tony Rickardson with a number 2 on his back, this time going from the inside gate. Coming up in the yellow and black at the tapes there, just going out of camera, is Joe Screen. Rickardson playing the waiting game at the back, and I'm sure the referee will want them up to tapes very, very shortly. All 4 will be there in a moment. Peter, you've been down there looking at the track. I know you think it's in good condition, but how valuable is that start going to be?
Well, I think the inside is going to be quite crucial early on in the meeting, and Rickardson and Hamill are both there on the inside. Joe Screen there on the outside. He's really got to make it completely from that gate 4, or he's got to miss it altogether and chop back around the inside, but it's really going to be tough.
Well, there are 4 talented riders certainly in this one, and we look at them down there with our camera really low down. That man with the white helmet colours there is Chris Louis. I know he'd be desperately keen here with the British fans behind him to do well. And coming into camera there now is Joe Screen in the yellow and black helmet colours, going from the outside, but back across on the inside is where we think the action will be right from the start here, with Tony Rickardson there on the inside of Billy Hamill. Chris Louis gate 3, Joe Screen on the outside of the yellow and black helmet colours. This is heat 1 of the British Grand Prix here at the London Stadium, the 5th in the series. The starting marshal walks away, up go the tapes, and away goes Billy Hamill from gate 2. Tony Rickardson squeezing in, but Hamill makes it. Rickardson goes wide, and our first Perler brings 3 riders off. The referee's going to have to make his decision here. He has stopped the heat, because there is no doubt about that. There are problems. We'll have to find out who, if anybody, he's going to exclude from that one. But a real pile up there, Peter. Not what we expected on what looked a good track.
Well, you see Rickardson there on the inside in the red. Hamill just pulls across him there on the blue helmet. Hamill elbows him a bit, but when they get to the corner, Hamill's in front. He goes very tight across the front there of Ricardson. Ricardson does a big slide and goes down.
Well, the referee has decided that all four will come back in, which is an unusual decision coming on that second bend, so he considers it all accidental, but really it was, oops, a daisy for three of them. Well, Tony Ricardson is limping away. I remember in Vienna Neustadt last year when three riders had a bend, but look at this. Really, we're going to have lots of incidences. This is the start of it, Peter. Can it be like last year?
Yeah, I think we're in for a great night, aren't we, by the sight of that there. Billy Hamill really gave Ricardson a nudge there, but Chris Louis got mixed up in all kinds of things. But Joe Screen, like I said, he missed that start from the outside, but came right through on the inside. All sorts going on that first corner. Really great.
The American Billy Hamill, he got away from it also. He's got a nice rest. His leathers are clean. But look at this. We've got running repairs down below us. And really, Peter, if we see it again, I would blame Ricardson, I think.
Well, yeah, you see Chris Louis there, chopping back, and Joe Screen, both in last and third positions. But Ricardson goes very wide and tangles with Joe Screen, and Joe Screen runs into Billy Hamill. So, I mean, we had three riders down there, and it was certainly all happening.
Well, that man in white there is Chris Louis. He seems calm, cool and collected. That man there, Billy Hamill, well, he's the only one that remains clean. He's steered clear of it all, and I'm sure that when we get to the restart, he will be anxious to make it there. It really was tight on the inside. And let's go down to the studio with Keith and Gary Hablok and co. and just see what their view is.
Thanks, Tony. Well, Gary Hablok, how do you... It sounded to me like...
yeah,
Green was going for it there.
Joe was going for it big time there, you know. They both, Joe and Chris both missed the start off the outside, you see. Billy makes a great start and he puts his elbow right across Tony there, and Tony's trying to elbow him, but Billy gets the drop. Chris and Joe both decide to turn back, and then just there you see Joe straighten up and he takes Chris's front wheel, cleans Tony up and almost cleans Billy up as well. So it's a right bit of drama straight from the start.
Barry Briggs, it wasn't like this in your day.
Oh no, this is most gentlemen in our day. That was a real aggressive move by Screeny, and I think it was bad luck in the middle of the corner. He just straightened up a little bit, but it caused havoc. I hope it doesn't keep going like this.
Kelvin, is that indicative of just how important it is tonight? I mean, we are now seeing that was almost a desperate manoeuvre there, wasn't it, to make sure he got through to the second corner at least.
Exactly, that action speaks for itself. I think, you know, guys coming off the outside early on are going to be a bit of a disadvantage, and they're turning back, trying to get up the inside. Unfortunately, it didn't quite come off for Joe, but his thinking was right, which is good.
In your view, what's the referee's decision going to be on this, Kel?
All four back.
All four back. Gary?
Yeah, first bend bunching.
Barry?
Yeah, I hope it's all four.
All four back then. We are looking at the number one, Hans Nielsen. Well, I wonder what's going through his mind at the moment. He knows what he's got to come up with tonight, and having just seen Heat 1, and his main, well, two of his main adversaries there in a major battle, Hamill and Ricardson, Hans Nielsen must be, well, nervous, I think, possibly. We'll wait to find out when he's out, but we've still got Heat 1 to run yet. This is live, and we can go back now to our commentators, Peter Collins and Tony Millard, who are well and truly across the action.
Well, right up above the action here, but they're coming out. Hans Nielsen's gone to have a look at the start just to see what starting conditions were. That man in yellow and black there is Joe Screen. It was almost the meat in that sandwich. He's coming out first. I can't see if anybody has changed machinery, because it looks to me there as if Joe has, Peter, and it looks as if he's on a different bike that looks a lot cleaner than the one he took a tumble on. Do you think there'll be a need to change machinery here?
Yeah, I think he's quite possibly changed bikes there. It took a bit of a knock there. I mean, he may have done some damage to that first machine, so he may be on his second bike.
Well, Tony Ricardson, we caught a glimpse of there in the pits. He's certainly cleaned up his machinery already. At tapes is Billy Hamill in gate 2 there, trying to make a chance of a grip. That's Tony Ricardson pushing out with his two mechanics that, like he, have the number 2 on their back. Chris Louis is already up at tapes, and it's going to be Tony Ricardson, the last one out, and he'll be desperately hoping that he is the first one away when those tapes go up. But that first bend looks as if it's going to be vital, and I don't think anybody can afford to be left trading at that point.
Yeah, I think also, Tony, there's a bit of water on there. They've put the top dressing on it, a bit of water to keep the dust down, and always in the earlier races there's a bit of water flying around, and it's just a little bit slippy anyway.
Well, the patience of Joe Screen there, Chris Louis going for a little run around, and I'm sure to get rid of the condensation under his visor. But now I think we all have the riders up at tapes. There they are, Ricardson on the inside, Billy Hamill from the USA, gate 2, Chris Louis from England, gate 3, Joe Screen from England, gate 4, and that patriotic man with the black check on the back of his morning dress coat and the Union Jack around his hat is our starting marshal here at the London Stadium as twilight begins to descend here and we look across the skyscrapers away out. But down below us now, there are 4 riders, good and true, who are going to try and make it from the start for the second time. They look down to the tapes, up it goes, Hamill to the fore, Hamill to the bend first, this could be vital. Going round the outside is Chris Louis, coming through is Tony Ricardson into second place. Screen now picks it up, 1, 2, 3, 4, but no doubt, Peter, about the quality of Billy Hamill and the speed away from the tapes.
Yeah, well, Billy had to do it all again there, didn't he? And he made that start even better in the second attempt. We see Ricardson's fallen in behind him and Screen's in pursuit of those two.
Billy Hamill out front. In second place is Tony Ricardson. Back in 3 is Joe Screen. Disappointing for Chris Louis at the back with the heat halfway over. Barring accidents, this is what is going to happen. Hamill has the good racing line. Screen is following in his wheel marks. Back in gate 3. Back in position 3 is Screen, but Tony Ricardson there is going to earn the second place. They're now on their last lap, and it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 in that order seemingly, because Billy Hamill, the winner of the last Grand Prix, takes the checkered flag down in front of us. Tony Ricardson in second place and Joe Screen in third. And once they got away from the tapes, it remained like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, and Billy Hamill out front. Really had it all his own way from the moment he made it from there.
Yes, look at Hamill there in the blue. He makes a really nice one there. The front wheels hovering as he rushes to the corner, but this time he's at least a bike length clear there of Ricardsson. See, Chris Louis, unfortunately, is just on the outside. He gets pushed wide, but there's that Screen with that outside to inside manoeuvre, pushing through. He doesn't quite have enough speed to go by Ricardsson, but he goes past Chris Louis there as they rush down to the next bend. But the track is still quite slippery at the moment there. You can see Chris Louis actually reversing into that corner, and there's a bit of wet flying around, so these early races are going to be a bit difficult. You can see the start there again. Ricardsson makes a nice one off gate 1. Screen on the outside looking across. He realises he can't get there. He rolls the throttle off. You can see Screen cutting back across, but Hamill's clear now. He's pulling away from the others. He's got a really nice line there around the corner as he goes onto the back straight. And if the way Hamill's going here, he's really going to take some stopping.
Well, he took some stopping. It ended there with the American Billy Hamill, the winner of the Swedish Grand Prix, in front. In second place, Tony Ricardson. Third was Joe Screen. And now all bar Billy Hamill have to make ground from here on. Heat 2 now coming up. That man in the blue helmet colours there is Sam Ermolenko, who came good in Sweden, of course. Sam Ermolenko, after a disappointing series so far. Peter Carlson's on the inside in this one. Craige Hancock, there he is, the winner of the Grand Prix here at Hackney last year. He goes from gate 3, and the lineup is completed by the Australian there, Craige Boyce. I'm sure we'll see more of him later on. Of course, he was the man involved in that little punch-up with the controversial Thomas Golov last time. That man there, he's not strictly speaking neutral, is he? That's the starting marshal. But there is Craige Boyce, who looks as if he's going to rob a bank, but now is just about to go out and take part in heat number 2 here in this London Grand Prix. And Peter, alongside me, Carlson, Ermolenko, Hancock and Boyce. It's difficult for me to see somebody finishing in front of Craige Hancock.
Yes, Hancock proved last year by winning the Grand Prix here that he really likes this track, and he's had some great results here through the years. But Carlson, you know, he's really right in Wolverhampton, which the track's very similar to this one, and I would say he's got the best gate there on the inside, so really Hancock's got his work cut out to sort of get across on this first ride of his.
Well, there are the riders lining up on the colours which see them out of the pits. They then know exactly what position they have to go in. Last to push away is the Australian Craige Boyce. Boyce, a shade disappointing at the moment, lying 15 in this Grand Prix series. That's him, number 17, and he's the last one away from the pits as they move up to the starting tapes. And the man on the red there on the inside, that is Peter Carlson. And he will go from the inside, the Swede. Coming up in white to gate number 3, Craige Hancock, the winner of the Grand Prix here last year. On the outside, that's Craige Boyce, the Australian. But there is Peter Carlson, the Swede. Peter Collins is tipped to go here from gate number 1. The floodlights in the background here as the darkness starts to descend on this London Stadium. The colourful cheerleader girls, well, they have the flags out for the nations. And there are 2 Americans, of course, in this, Sam Ermolenko and Craige Hancock in the middle. In blue there is Sam Ermolenko, who's the oldest rider in the field here this evening. That man in white there is Craige Hancock. He's from the USA, of course. Those two going for the middle part of Team Exide. There on the outside, that's Craige Boyce, who rides for Poole here in the British League. And he certainly wants to show something. The starting marshal pulls them into order. Sam Ermolenko has gone back. He's the rider in the distance. Peter Carlson on the inside from Wolverhampton of Sweden. Sam Ermolenko from Sheffield of the USA. Craige Hancock from Cradley of the USA. Craige Boyce from Poole and Australia. A truly international lineup here as we approach heat number 2. Starting marshal in his colourful gear, having predictable problems with these riders. Good crowd here at the London Arena. Now we're about to get underway. The starting marshal moves forward. Up go the tapes, and Carlson's like lightning from the inside, but look at Craige Hancock coming across. He's taken wide by Carlson, which gives room to Ermolenko. And now there's a battle joined here with Peter Collins being right about the man up front. But look at Hancock coming through in second place, being taken wide by Sam Ermolenko, who's determined to hold on there. But Peter Carlson made it from the inside gate and should hold it from here.
Well, it looks that way, but Hancock really has got his work cut out now to even get by Ermolenko. I mean, Ermolenko is also a small track specialist, and he seems to be having that inside covered really well, and Hancock's trying all sorts to go by him, but he just doesn't seem to be making any ground.
But that man out front there in the red helmet colour is Peter Carlson. The Swede has time to look back at Sam Ermolenko, who's now relatively distant, with some 2/3 of the race gone as Carlson goes down the back straight ahead of Ermolenko, Hancock and Boyce at the rear. And this is really processional, because with a lap to go, or rather with the heat over there, certainly the winner, no doubt about the quality of the winner, in red Peter Carlson, Sam Ermolenko in blue, and Craige Hancock in white is how it finished, but it was made from this point.
Yes, that inside start position still working there. You can see there that Carlson makes a nice start. You've got Hancock trying to come around the outside, but because he's on the outside, Ermolenko's plugging away there, and he sneaks past Hancock as they come onto the back straight there, but Carlson's away now, and the way Carlson was riding, there was no way that the others were going to get by him. I mean, he really is going well. He never put a foot wrong, and that was a really good ride from him.
He made it from the tapes there, and there's no doubt about the quality there. And at this point, it was Craige Hancock who lifted slightly from the tapes there, and perhaps that might have lost him just a little bit of time.
Well, you know, Hancock was committed there. You know, he made that start just about, so he had to keep going around the outside, and that allowed Carlson there to push him wide, as you can see there. And Hancock was really wider than he wanted to be. He was at least 10 foot there from that inside white line. And so early on in the meeting, you've got to ride very, very tight, stay right around the inside, because at this stage, it's the shortest way round, and Carlson certainly found that.
Well, it seemed to me there that Carlson went slightly wide of Sam Ermolenko, which perhaps made it up for him. But a little pensive is Leigh Adams there, and Leigh Adams certainly looking, he's going from the inside gate in this one, and I'm just wondering what he can do here. That's Andy Smith is really looking today to go in this heat as well. And we can go down to the pits where Julian Ryder has the winner of that last heat, the very fast Peter Carlson.
Peter, that was a good gate, and you made the best of it.
Yeah, I mean, that was good, you know, and I got the track record as well, so I'm pleased with that.
Can't be bad. Now, you've been in an A final once this year, but does the fact a Swede has never won a Grand Prix get into your mind at all?
I haven't thought about that, but maybe we can change it tonight.
Great ride, Peter. Thank you. Back to you, Tony.
Yes, well, we're looking here. The Swedes may have it, but this heat is going to bring out Hans Nielsen, and we're going to watch this with interest. That man there in the yellow helmet colours is Mark Loram, who, of course, has track experience here and knows this track very, very well indeed. And, of course, Mark has to climb into that top 8 here. In white there, that's Hans Nielsen, the professor, as Keith nicknames him with the boys down in the studio. And Hans Nielsen has already been out looking at the track to see about the starts that others have had, and he will no doubt be planning his tactics. Peter Collins alongside me, former world champion himself. You saw Hans looking at the track. What will he have discovered by that little examination at the start?
Well, Hans is normally quite cool, but I would think at this moment he is very, very concerned about this, because it could go either way for him here. He really has to do well here at Hackney, and he's got it all to do, hasn't he?
Well, that is Leigh Adams in the red helmet colours, his first away for the pits. Andy Smith from Britain is following him. Hans Nielsen there is just about to be pushed away. He's keeping them waiting. So, once again, a multinational starting lineup with 2 Englishmen, an Australian and a Dane in this. And there is the Dane. Arguably, of course, one of Speedway's best ever riders. And that man in blue there is Andy Smith, who's taking his time. There is Hans Nielsen, who's going to be last up to tapes. And we know that Hans Nielsen won the Grand Prix last year, but it could be a lot closer this year. Do you think, Peter, that Hans, I know he doesn't normally seem to have nerves, but I got the feeling down in the pits there were a few nerves about him today?
Well, I think after the last performance in Sweden, if there's any point that he's going to have nerves, it's today, because after that bad meeting he had, I think really he knows he's got to put it all together, and it certainly wasn't like on a crest of a wave for him in Sweden. So basically he's really got to do a vast improvement to finish up in those high finals, and especially he needs to be in that A final.
Well, that man that we've just seen there, Andy Smith, of course, is going to really struggle to make the A final. Andy Smith at the moment has been struggling somewhat in the Grand Prix this year. But there in the yellow and black helmet colours is Mark Loram, who knows the track like the back of his hand. And if he's going to make it, he's going to make it from the outside round Hans Nielsen. It's Leigh Adams on the inside, Andy Smith in gate 2, Hans Nielsen in gate 3. It's going to be very difficult for Mark Loram to get by him from the outside. So what tactics, Peter, would he need to use to get by?
Well, it's the same thing as I said about Joe Screen earlier. If you miss that outside, you've really got to chop back to the inside if you miss it, and come through on the inside. So we'll soon see what he does at this one.
Well, it'll be interesting to watch what Hans does too, because he is known to bulk other riders. Starting marshal marches away. Up go the tapes. Leigh Adams on the inside. But there is Hans Nielsen coming across, pursued round the outside by Mark Loram, who tries to pick it up and does into second place. Behind Hans Nielsen, though, Leigh Adams is back in third. Andy Smith battling to come through into third. But out front, it's Hans Nielsen. Gate 3 may not have been his favourite, but he made his familiar rapid start, and from there on it now looks as if Hans Nielsen is hardly going to look back. Mark Loram is chasing him. Andy Smith is nowhere. In third place it's Leigh Adams, but Hans Nielsen is looking wheel perfect.
Yes, he is. And normally gate 3 position isn't not the most popular one, and Hans really showed his class there by making that start from gate 3.
Well, he made the start from gate 3. We're now on lap 3. This is Hans Nielsen. He's in front of, in second place, Mark Loram. It'll be 2 valuable points for the Brit. The other Brit, Andy Smith, is way back, but there's no doubt about the quality of the winner. Hans Nielsen wins that, ahead of, looking down at his engine, Mark Loram. In third place is, in the red helmet colours, Leigh Adams from Australia. Real disappointment for Andy Smith, but the Professor has started exactly as he wanted to, and did from there.
Yes, just look at that. That is the Hans Nielsen that we've seen so many times. What a start there from the unfavourable gate 3 position. He's just going completely out front there. He's really, really looking sharp, and I mean, if this is the way he's going to carry on, then he looks as though he may have it right for this, and it's going to make it very, very interesting. We can see again from the start, he's dropped that clutch, but his front wheel's just hovering off the ground. He's a full bike length clear when he gets to the corner. No interference from the inside. Poor old Leigh Adams there on that inside didn't make it. He wasted that inside gate position. The riders on the outside there, Mark Loram's in pursuit, but certainly got no answer to Nielsen there. You can see Nielsen, his legs out the back there. He's willing that bike to get to the first corner. You can see he's virtually pushing that bike, making it get there first, and that really is the mark of a champion.
Well, certainly from that point on, where he hugged the line, stayed in front, and Hans Nielsen in this sort of form is going to take some beating. I don't know what the race time was. We know that Peter Carlson was pretty quick, but I'd be interested to compare those times, because Hans Nielsen there was certainly pretty quick. But here is heat number 4 coming up, and that man is Mr. Controversy himself, Thomas Golob. He'll be wearing the red helmet colours as he hands over his little cap, and he'll be going on the inside of Jason Crump. And there's Jason Crump, of course, the Australian who rides for Peterborough. And in gate 3 is Tommy Knudsen, and I think we can see him there, who's been missing for the last 2 Grand Prix. That's after, of course, crashing at Lanigo in Italy. And the other competitor here on the outside there is Henrik Gustafsson, who was so unlucky not to win in Sweden. Quite a quartet of riders here, and for my money, Peter Collins, any one of the 4 could win, and that man Henrik Gustafsson could even do it from the outside.
Yeah, Gustafsson really showed his class in the last Grand Prix in Sweden. And he had a good one here last year, didn't he, at Hackney? So I think he's in with a real good chance here. So we'll see what he can do from the start. Although the dirt doesn't seem to be working quite well at the moment, it's got to move out to the outside, and then we may see some good outside runs there. And Henka Gustafsson is probably somebody that can do that.
Well, there we are, getting underway, and that man there is, I think, Tommy Knudsen, who's must be a little bit nervous after the injuries that he's had, and certainly from his point of view, it's vital that he competes here. I know that Tommy Knudsen is determined to finish in the top 8. He still lies 6th, and he's won 3 of the 10 Grand Prix that we've had in the last 2 years already. That man there with the red helmet colours, that's Thomas Golob, who was controversy extraordinary last time he was here. I'm sure he'd be keen to steer clear of that. I think we've got our helmet camera on board Thomas Golob this time, so this should be a bit of fun. As he pushes away there, we can hear on the microphone of that helmet cover the noise of Thomas Golob. That is Tommy Knudsen. And with Jason Crump and Henrik Gustafsson in here, well, there's plenty that could happen.
Yeah, Tommy Knudsen, actually, I'm sure he's feeling very, very fragile. He's just come back from that really badly broken collarbone. He had 3 operations on it, and I still feel he's not 100% fit. He must be feeling quite delicate, and he realises that he can't afford to fall off on that collarbone. And you may find that if he doesn't make the start, he may just tend to ride too overprotectingly.
That is Henrik Gustafsson. We just heard about those times from the previous race. It was only the 2nd fastest. Hans Nielsen's effort was not quite as fast as that of Peter Carlson, so there's going to be plenty of competition later on. Henrik Gustafsson there, number 8, with the yellow helmet colours from Sweden, going from the outside in this this heat number 4. Red helmet colours, that's Thomas Golob of Poland. He's going from the inside, of course. Gustafsson having words with his mechanic. Little last-minute adjustments, perhaps. We're still waiting for the last rider to come up to tape, which is Gustafsson, who at the moment is still back at pits. As he comes up, there is the last man up to tapes. Starting marshal is signaling to the referee that we're just about ready to start, and this heat number 4 will complete 1 ride for each of the 16 riders here in this Grand Prix. That's Tommy Knudsen. The white helmet colours. On the outside, Henrik Gustafsson. Floodlights shining in the background here. Golob on the inside, Jason Crump from Peterborough in Australia, Tommy Knudsen from Denmark, Henrik Gustafsson from Sweden, Golob from Poland. Only one British big rider in this front. That, though, is Tommy Knudsen. Starting marshal moves away, up go the tapes, and Knudsen makes it to the front, and there'll be no nerves if he can stay there. But Gustafsson goes round him as if he's standing still. It's Sweden 1, Denmark 2, Henrik Gustafsson, but at the back, Golob is causing all sorts of mayhem as he goes wide, and now Golob is in last place, and the Scandinavians are sorting it out in front, ahead of the Australian, Jason Crump. Crump is battling to get ahead of Knudsen back in 2nd place, but out front, Henrik Gustafsson is showing the sort of speed that he showed in Sweden, and coming through into 2nd place is Jason Crump. A marvellous ride by the rider in the blue helmet colours there, as Tommy Knudsen appears to go backwards.
Yes, Jason Crump really used that dirt there on the outside. Knudsen was riding round on the inside, riding the safe line. He probably doesn't want to take any chances, and that allowed Crump there to go round him in that dirt. That was very brave riding from Jason Crump.
But Tommy Knudsen is finding this tough at the back because he hadn't ridden in competitive racing until he turned up here, and he's almost going to be caught by Golob. But no doubt about the winner with the wheelie, Henrik Gustafsson ahead of Jason Crump in the blue helmet colours. Back in 3rd place is Tommy Knudsen. But that man from Sweden, Henrik Gustafsson, yet to win a Grand Prix, the Swedish champion last year. He made it from the tapes well, but it was on the bend that he made it really count as he went by Tommy Knudsen.
Yeah, Gustafsson there on the outside. He doesn't quite get there in front, but Knudsen's also there on the inside. But there, Gustafsson really works that dirt. Just thought he would be able to get in that, and he did. He gets a nice lot of grip there as he shoots through, and he rides a really nice line there. But poor old Tommy Knudsen seems to be riding very, very stiffly there. And Jason Crump, and you can see there that Golob's in all kinds of knots there at the back, looking down at his bike. But here's that manoeuvre there. You can see Jason Crump just goes nicely sailing around the outside there of Tommy Knudsen. Knudsen's riding a nice line round the inside, but Crump just shoots by on the outside.
Well, there we saw some fine riding. That is Tommy Knudsen there, struggling somewhat. No doubt about the quality of the winner. In yellow and black, Henrik Gustafsson winning the heat ahead of Jason Crump. And that man there in third place, Tommy Knudsen. And there we have the heat winners, Billy Hamill, Peter Carlson, Hans Nielsen and Henrik Gustafsson. Peter Carlson, the fastest of those, because he, in fact, it was that broke the track record in heat number 2 and puts himself in contention to be the Grand Prix winner here at the London Stadium.
That sets the scene then for tonight. They've all had one go round here, the Hackney Stadium, 1996 style. We're going to take a break. Be back in a while.
You're watching Sky Sports 2. Bullets will fly in Tuesday night action when Hollywood's heavyweights do what they do best.
I'm breathless with anticipation.
At 10 on Sky Movies.
Seal in Vault 10 has been breached.
Man's deadliest invention is about to show its mettle. Death Machine, 10 o'clock Tuesday on Sky Movies.
Why didn't you tell me you were inviting them?
I wanted to surprise you.
Surprise me then!
I eat Aunt the pasta twice just because she is so nice, Angelina. Angelina, which is sad pizzeria.
When you walk through the global village, make sure you carry a global currency. Over 200 million people in over 200 countries speak MasterCard.
Pizza delivery!
Back up.
Every language speaks MasterCard.
Robert De Niro, Al Pacino.
I'm double the worst trouble you ever had. You are going down.
Heat, out now on video.
Welcome back. The lights are on full now. It's getting darker and darker here at Hackney. Heat 5 coming up in a moment. We can go now back to Julian Ryder down in pit lane. He's got Tommy Knudsen with him.
Tommy, your first competitive race since Lonigo. Third, how do you feel?
Okay, a bit stiff on the bike. I can't quite relax as I should on the bike, but hopefully it gets better as the meeting goes on. You know, I should have had a second place in that race, but I was just too tense on the bike.
Now, you've said that unless you end up in the top 8 of the World Championship, you will retire at the end of the year. You're 6th now. What do you need? 2 B finals in the last 2 rounds?
I don't know. It's difficult to say, but 2 B finals I think should be enough. But it all depends how the other guys do underneath me.
Well, we hope we'll talk to you later, Tommy.
All right, thanks.
Julian Ryder then, he'll be getting all the news as it breaks down in pit lane. Back here in the studio, bad news if we lose Tommy Knudsen.
Yeah, sure. You know, he's been a brilliant rider. He's won a few GPs, and at the beginning of this season looked like he was going to be a real threat for the championship.
Well, last year as well. I mean, he came on so strong towards the end of the season. I mean, he is surely just a bit too good to lose from this championship.
Yeah, I think so. I think, but he's had a lot of injuries in his career, and this sort of collarbone problem with the 3 operations, it's got to make you think, you know, and he has been riding a while.
Well, a man injured here rather than racing, of course, Gary Havelock. It got off to a bit of a hectic start, didn't it? Heat 1 was not exactly what we expected into turn 1. We can take a look at that now. Perhaps all you 3 guys can talk us through this one. But Gary, first, tell me what happened.
Heat 1 was a right good start to the main. Billy, as I say, he's got across there. Tony's tried to elbow him, but Billy's having none of it. And then we don't see it here, but Joe just comes screaming through the middle. Takes Chris's front wheel, cleans up Tony, and they all come down.
Big crash there, and I think we touched on it earlier on when it first happened, that the tension of tonight obviously getting to some of the riders, Barry, but it seems to have settled down now.
Yeah, I think it showed a lot in that first heat when they rerun it. When you have a rerun, the fella that's leading normally at a disadvantage, but Hamill hammered it in and took the win in great style.
Well, we can go back down to the grid for Heat 5 now. Our commentators Peter Collins and, of course, Tony Millard, and they're live.
And we have heat number 5 here that brings together 3 of the 4 heat winners so far. One of them, that man in yellow and black. That man in red, Henrik Gustafsson, is another. The only one in this heat that hasn't won a race so far is Tony Rickardsson, but who were back against him winning this one? We have 4 of the world's top riders. Peter Carlsson there in gate 3. He has the fastest time. He's beaten the Hackney track record. Gustafsson from Sweden on the inside. Rickardsson from Sweden, gate 2. Carlsson from Sweden, gate 3. All fast. On the outside, Hans Nielsen, second fastest so far. And certainly as the current world champion, he is the one they all have to fear here. But he must be, Peter Collins alongside me, a little bit afraid of that man, who's certainly very fast tonight.
Yeah, now this will be the main test for Hans here. He's on the outside and he's got Peter Carlsson next to him, and they've both really won their rides nicely from those starts earlier on, but it's going to be really tough from that outside there for Hans. He's really got to get across. Like I've said earlier on, he's either got to get across, which is more like Hans's style. He wants to make it and dive across. I'm sure he's not looking at missing it and diving around the inside.
Well, we've seen him do just that in other Grand Prix meetings here on Sky this season. I remember in Poland him coming across from the outside, but let's see what he can do here. He's going to make a dive for that first bend, and Henrik Gustafsson's on the inside. I'm sure that he'll be making a dive for the apex to keep him away. He enters raw. Here goes Nielsen. Here goes Carlsson on the inside. Nielsen's taken wide. He is last. He didn't make it. That could be the telling move of the Grand Prix. But the Professor back in 4th place is coming back, going wide. It's Gustafsson. Carlsson's coming through on the inside. We have a race on our hands here. And Hans Nielsen, Peter, is at the back.
Yeah, we've got the 2 Swedes here in front. But Nielsen paid the price there of doing everything he could to make that start. But he just hadn't got enough speed and got pushed right wide on the first turn.
And on that back straight, Peter Carlsson went through, and now coming through into 2nd place, Tony Rickardsson. Nielsen's into 3rd, and pulling up is Henrik Gustafsson. And once again, unlucky, the Swede. So unlucky in Sweden, and now retiring in the first race. But this Swede, Peter Carlsson, out front, is going to win this one. It'll make it 6 points out of 6 and put him in line for the Grand Prix title. Hans Nielsen is back in 3rd. There is the checkered flag. In 2nd place is Tony Rickardsson. 3rd in yellow and black is Hans Nielsen. That could well prove to be the heat that decided the Grand Prix here, because Peter Carlsson broke the track record on his first outing. He didn't make it from the gate, but later on, you'll see he came well.
Yeah, look at Hans there in the yellow. He just lifts slightly, but he pays the ultimate price for racing for that corner. Rickardsson really just pushed Nielsen wide there, and Nielsen is completely out of the race there.
So, heat number 5, won by the rider in white, Peter Carlsson. In 2nd place in red was, in 2nd place was Tony Rickardsson, and 3rd was Hans Nielsen. What a race. Well, what a race and what a performance. But that was Hans Nielsen, and now this is Peter Carlsson doing it where it counted. What a pass.
Yeah, I think maybe Gustafsson there was having a bit of bike trouble because he later stopped there. But look at Carlsson, the way he goes by. Carlsson's also rides for Wolverhampton, and the track here at Hackney is very, very similar to Wolverhampton. So he's had such a lot of practice on this type of circuit.
Well, practice it may have been, but they say practice makes perfect. And nothing could have been more perfect than the performance of Peter Carlsson from Sweden in his 2 rides so far. Heat number 6 is coming up now as they move along here at the London Stadium. Let's see, though, as a result of that, what down in the pits Hans Nielsen has to say.
Hans, 2 outside starts and mixed fortunes in your first 2 rides.
Yeah, the first one was okay. I made a very good start from 3. I felt I made a pretty good one there from 4, but not quite good enough to get across. I just got the shove out on the first corner, so that was tough.
No repeat of the last Grand Prix for you then?
No, I don't think so. I mean, everybody's going to drop point today. I think it's that first corner is so lethal down there, and it's going to be hard.
Thanks, Hans. Back to Tony.
and you join me as the starting tape goes wrong on the outside, which means a slight delay, only slight, for this quartet here as they get underway for heat number 6. On the inside is Jason Crump from Peterborough and Australia. Leigh Adams goes from gate 2, his fellow Australian. And the Team Exide pair on the outside, the Americans, Billy Hamill and Craige Hancock. Starting marshal goes away. Looking down is Billy Hamill. Into the apex of the men goes his American teammate, Craige Hancock, pursued by in red Jason Crump. Hamill comes through into 3rd place. Tailed off at the back now, the Australian Leigh Adams. Those first 2 bends are really sorting them out. There is Hamill bucking and rearing, but out front in the yellow helmet colours is Craige Hancock, who won the Grand Prix here last year and is already showing a liking for the track.
Yeah, Craige Hancock really caught them all napping there. He made a beautiful start off the outside there. Poor old Billy Hamill's back in 3rd place, and if he's going to get in that A final and make any ground on Hans Nielsen, he's really got to do better than this.
Craige Hancock, though, hasn't got to do better than this. He's doing well out front, pursued by Jason Crump. Hamill is back in 3rd place. He'll be disappointed with that. Leigh Adams, frankly, although this is his home track, doesn't seem to be enjoying this one at all as he comes round almost now 50 metres behind. But taking the checkered flag is that man in yellow. That, without any shadow of doubt, Craige Hancock. 2nd in red is Jason Crump. Back in 3rd place in white is Billy Hamill, but really there was no doubt from the start there. Billy Hamill jumped and reared, but Hancock was the man who made it.
Yeah, we could see what happened with Hamill there. He lifted on the start, he really snaked as he went to the first corner, and that really allowed Hancock there to come across. And just look at Hamill getting all that grip. He really rode very erratically there in that race when he was behind. Certainly looked different to when he was in front in the other one. But we can see that again there. You've got Hancock on the outside. He makes a nice run. He's got a lot of distance to cover there, but he makes it really well. And Hancock there, and Hamill's turned back. He's got a fantastic wheelie there and just about manages to go ahead there of Leigh Adams, but Jason Crump's between them here now, and there's no way that he was going to be able to catch Craige Hancock.
Well, Hancock's win took him on to 4 points there and puts him back in contention after the disappointment in the first heat. But that man in red, Jason Crump, made him battle all the way, and certainly Crump wants to make it, but Hamill was squeezed out into 3rd place, and that could be a telling factor come the end of the meeting. The heat won by Craige Hancock. In 2nd place, Jason Crump. 3rd was Billy Hamill. And now we can hear from Craige Hancock exactly what he thought of that, talking down in the pits with Julian Ryder.
Craige Hancock, I think you like this place.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a great racing circuit. It's rather tricky, and you know, there's a little technique to riding the place. So yeah, I enjoyed it. That last run especially.
I didn't notice any team riding to help your Exide teammate there.
Well, I guess that'll get everybody talking now. So let's just wait and see what happens later.
Greg, we will.
That's right. Thanks.
A happy, smiling Craige Hancock down there in the pits, and that's hardly surprising with that victory as we move on now to heat number 7. And here, once again, in the blue helmet colours in gate 2, is the controversial Pole, Thomas Golob. That man there in the white helmet colours behind a young lady much younger than he is, the oldest rider in the field. That's Ermo. And pushing out there is Andy Smith, the Brit who really hasn't pulled up any trees, unfortunately, in the Grand Prix series, neither last year nor this. Rides, of course, from Bradford in the British League. And that is Andy Smith. He has the advantage of the inside gate here. But so far, that inside gate has produced just 1 heat winner, Peter Collins, not to great advantage that you thought.
Yeah, well, as the meeting's going on now, the outside gates begin to get better. But Andy's always full of surprises, you know, and Andy's just likely to pull out in this one and make a good start, and he could win this.
Well, patriotic Peter Collins, a former world champion himself, of course, and Peter, when you rode at this stadium, it was before the modernisation, a very different track in those days.
Yes, it was. The track was quite different. It was actually quite banked, and it was about the same size, but you certainly rode a different line in those days, right round the outside, right under the fence, and nowadays it's a little bit different.
Well, that racing line is starting to show down on the track on the first bend. Nobody's gone really wide in the dirt. Smith on the inside, Golob gate 2, Hamill&Hancock gate 3, Louis on the outside. The Brit, the Jits are cheering for Chris Louis as he goes from the outside there. Can he make it to the bend? Louis goes round, picks up the speed and picks it up down the back straight. The Brits are cheering, the crowd are cheering because a Brit is in front, and that, Peter Collins, a little bit unusual at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely great that. You see him go round that outside on that first turn. He used all that dirt, absolutely great there. He's still using it now, and even Andy Smith's right in there with him.
Britons 1 and 2, Chris Louis and Andy Smith. Back in third place is Sam Ermolenko. Thomas Golob at the rear. They're battling at the back. But let's cheer for the Brits out front. Chris Louis in the yellow helmet colours, pursued by Andy Smith. That is Thomas Golob in the blue, but he's right at the back. And let's savour this moment, because with a lap to go, it's British riders 1 and 2. Chris Louis out front in the yellow and black helmet colours. Andy Smith in the white helmet colours. And now a big gap down the back straight. But there goes the checkered flag. And there is Chris Louis taking that ahead of Andy Smith and Sam Ermolenko. Britain 1 and 2 in a heat here in the Grand Prix, and I get the feeling that the bristles on the back of Peter Collins' neck alongside me have helped to cheer those Brits home.
Oh, Tony, that's more like it. I mean, Andy almost made it there off the inside, but just watch Chris Louis here. He comes into the picture on the outside, and he uses all that grip that's there. He gets a lovely, lovely run round that first turn. He's using all that dirt. His wheels are in line. Andy Smith's also there. He's holding off the challenge there from Sam Ermolenko. Sam Ermolenko rubs Andy Smith's tyre there, but Andy's having none of it. He just carries on, and what a good ride for England. These two lads now have really done us proud in that ride. You can see the start here again. Golob's lifted there, completely out of the picture, but look at Andy Smith. He actually makes that start there on the inside, but Chris Louis on the outside is getting lots and lots of grip there. He makes a lovely turn. He runs round the outside. All those three virtually come to that straight together, but Chris Louis got enough speed just to run down the fence and ahead of Andy Smith.
When you see riding like that, Peter, you must think, well, what have we been missing in these Grand Prix races so far from the Brits?
Yeah, now the dirt's moving out, we're going to see a lot more of that, and that's great. I mean, I'm sure we're in for a fantastic second half of the meeting.
Well, heat 7 there then, won by Chris Louis ahead of Andy Smith and Sam Ermolenko. But the riders are getting ready to come out now for heat number 8. And there are two more Brits in this one. In Joe Screen will be going from the inside, and Mark Loram from gate 3, along with the Australian Craige Boyce in gate 2. And that man there, Tommy Knudsen, we're all looking for great things. But I think down in the pits at the moment, Julian Ryder is talking with that man, Chris Louis.
Chris, that was more like it, dare we say?
Yeah, I felt a little bit more comfortable out in front. You know, it's a sort of track you can go quite quick when you've got a clean track in front of you, so much more comfortable. A little bit painful at the moment, but...
A final then, Chris?
Sorry?
A final?
I hope so, yeah. I mean, obviously that duck in the first one's not going to help that cause. We can't afford to lose any more points, but we're certainly going for an A final.
Best of luck.
Cheers.
I think that was Chris Louis, though, going from the sublime to the ridiculous. Lost first time out, but that was absolutely superb. Things looking a lot better now for the Brits as we move into heat number 8. And it's a heat that includes two British riders, and one of them there on the outside is certainly not. That's Tommy Knudsen. Inside him is Mark Loram, but Tommy Knudsen goes from gate 4. Joe Screen from England on the inside. Craige Boyce from Australia, gate 2. Mark Loram goes through gate 3, who rides for Exeter in the British League. And Tommy Knudsen is on the outside. That is Loram as he looks down at the tapes. Let's see if we can get Britain in the action. Once again, as up go the tapes. Away from the inside in the red helmet colours goes Joe Screen. Round the outside comes Tommy Knudsen, pursued by Screen in red. Coming through into third place, it's Mark Loram, who looks as if he could go right round the lot as he moves into second place. Screen and Loram battling in second place. Knudsen may be tired. Going wide, sadly, is Loram there. But right at the back is Craige Boyce, and the challenge is still on to the tiring Tommy Knudsen as Joe Screen comes through. Followed by Mark Loram, and once again, it's Britain's 1 and 2. This London Grand Prix is being turned on his head by the style and the panache of these British riders. There is Joe Screen in red with a lap to go, ahead of Mark Loram in the white helmet colours, and Knudsen and Boyce are nowhere.
Yeah, Screen really used that dirt there, but Knudsen was really slowing down, but look at Loram coming around the outside.
There we go. Which one's going to finish it first? It's won by Joe Screen in red ahead of Mark Loram in white. Back in third place, but who cares? It's Tommy Knudsen in yellow and black. We've had 2 Grand Prix races in the British Grand Prix where British riders have come 1 and 2. And that man there, Joe Screen, is the man who came in first. This should light up things in the studio in a moment because it's time for British celebrations. But this is how it happened.
Yes, we can see there, Knudsen's made the start, he's in front, but you know he's just not riding quick enough. Like he said earlier, he's very, very stiff on the bike, he's not moving fluently enough, but Screen and Loram are really chasing after him. They're both waiting for him to make a mistake. As Screen is chasing now, he's really, really on his tail, and they're actually Knudsen's slowing these 2 down now, but you see Screen dive on the inside. Knudsen hits that dirt, Knudsen's back wheel, he's still gripping there, he's still in first place, but he's got the tigers on his tail. But you see there, Knudsen makes a terrible mistake going into that corner, he gets in all kinds of trouble, he's not strong enough to hold the bike, and that allows Screen and Loram to pass him in the same spot. Absolutely great there for the English boys. We've got another English 1-2 there.
We make no apologies for cheering the Brits home here. Heat 8 won by Joe Screen ahead of Mark Loram and the weakening Tommy Knudsen in 3rd place. It'll be time to celebrate for the lads in the studio as we join Keith Ewing down below.
British riders fight back then. Great stuff, eh, guys? Superb stuff. Well, we're going to talk with Joe Screen in just a few moments. We're going to take another break now. Don't go away. We'll be back with Joe in a moment.
It's about life. Many say Queen's Park Rangers were unlucky to go down.
It's about getting back where we belong.
On Sunday's Football League Live, they face Bolton Wanderers, also looking for a quick return to the top flight.
It's about everything.
Join us for Nationwide League and FA Carling Premiership action this weekend on Sky Sports.
New Centrum. Nothing has more vitamins and minerals at precisely 100% ECRDA. Centrum, complete from A to zinc.
Watch this. See if it doesn't ring a bell. Grown-up child rings home.
Hi, it's me.
Hello, love. I'll get your mother. It's like the old man's an answering service, but he needn't be like that. Hello, love. I'll just get your mother.
Oh, hang on, Dad. Well, can't we have a chat first?
Is anything the matter?
No, I just forgotten what you sound like.
Very funny. So how's the course going? Remember, answering the phone is not the same as talking on the phone. Did you? So, Dad, before you hand over to Mum, say something. Brilliant. And kids, talk to your father, right?
Boyfriend?
It's good to talk.
You can see there the British Telecom Tower over West London. We're in East London here at Hackney, and the Brits are coming. It's being told around the world from this stadium. We can go now down to Julian Ryder in pit lane, who's got Shaggy, Joe Screen, with him.
Joe, we've just said to Chris Louis about time. I think we should say the same to you. Wonderful.
Yeah, it was a good one, you know. I had a good race in Pocking with Mark, and that was good as well.
It was, wasn't it? And say something about the man on your right. How's he been helping? For those of you that don't know who this is, 1980 world champ Michael Leigh. So we've got a complete set of British world champions on the show. He's been helping you, especially with the mind games, I think.
Yeah, half of it's, well, 99% is like the head, and, I need somebody to kick me up the backside, and he's doing that.
Great stuff. Michael, you pleased with them?
Yeah, great. There's 3 more races to go, a few more points, and up in either the A or B final. That's what we're looking at.
Thank you. Back to Keith.
Thank you, Julian. Well, as I said earlier on, it's all happening here at the British Grand Prix. We can take a look now at the standings after those first 8 races, and this is what they look like. Peter Carlson then on a maximum of 6th. That is a turn up for the books. We'll talk about that in a minute, or maybe not a turn up for the books. Hans Nielsen got 4 points, as has Rickardson, Hamill, Hancock, Crump, Screen and Loram. It's very close after 8 races. Joe Screen, and I've got to go to Kelvin again for this. Whatever anybody says about Joe Screen, and I think, Gary, you've already made your comments fairly lively ones in the press recently, so Kelvin, we'll go to you first with this. He's back on form. It's taken him a little while to get into this Grand Prix system, hasn't it?
Yes, I think it is a step up from the league racing, and I think Joe's been able to perform very well throughout Europe on league standard. But the Grand Prix is just that bit more competitive in every aspect, and I think Joe's taking his time. But on the evidence of that last ride, that was fantastic. That was the stuff we want to see.
Gary, I mean, Joe, he has struggled, and he's got slammed very slightly. He was our great white hope, wasn't he? Everyone built him up and built him up and built him up, and then everyone started to knock him down, knock him down.
I think that's the problem in England with the press. You know, you look in all sports, you know, they put people up on a pedestal, and then straight away they want to knock them down. And it has been tough for Joe this year. It's been tough for a lot of the young guys who are coming in. But Joe's made a good stuff, and you know, it's great to see you know, 2 rides running now. We had British first.
Okay, well, we've got more to come. We've got to go back now, Gary. Sorry to interrupt you. Heat 9, Tony Millard.
Heat 9 means the first heat in which everybody has now had 2. Craige Hancock is on the inside. Tommy Knudsen, gate 2. Tony Ricardson, gate 3. And Andy Smith, gate 4. And one has the impression here tonight that all are star riders and all are doing well. And in fact, just about anybody can win any heat from what we've seen so far. This is marvellous Speedway. And this is heat number 9 as the starting marshal walks away. Up go the tapes, away from the inside. Craige Hancock's in front. Coming across is a revitalised Andy Smith to go round the outside and almost pick it up, but does, and the Brits are in front again. Andy Smith round the outside. Hancock holds him wide. The battle is joined between Craige Hancock of the USA and Andy Smith from England, but Smith locks up on that one, which allows people to make ground. But Craige Hancock out front, a very, very good start by the American.
Yeah, well, I was right there about Andy having his moments, but Hancock really got caught napping there by Andy, but Hancock's now gone clear of them all, and he's really pulling away in this one. And Ricardson's also struggling back in 3rd place.
Well, Craige Hancock with 4 points already. This will take it to 7 if he wins this one. He's even having time to look back, and the first man he sees is Andy Smith of Bradford and England. Back in 3rd place is Tony Ricardson, who's in the shadows a little bit, and brought right at the back is Tommy Knudsen. And I think we could be watching Tommy Knudsen's swan song here this evening, because that one was won easily there by Craige Hancock. And real disappointment for Tommy Knudsen coming in last. Disappointment for him, but glory for that man, and he did it from the tapes.
Yeah, if you watch this start here, you've got Knudsen there lifting on 2, but look at Hancock. He really raced into that corner a little bit too quick, and he goes too wide, which almost allows the 2 riders on the inside to come by him. So he pulls back thinking that the riders are coming on the inside. He doesn't see Andy Smith sneaking around the outside and takes him completely by surprise. Now Andy rushes into the next bend here. His back wheel's in that dirt, but suddenly he gets a little bit of extra grip there. He goes a bit too wide, but Hancock now really got him covered and slips back through under the inside. Hancock really went by Smith there, really, really well, but he was certainly caught napping.
Well, I think the lads in the studio are enjoying this. Keith and the boys, what do you think of it?
Well, we're enjoying your commentary, that's for sure, Mr. Millard and Collins, but Barry Briggs, you must have known something that not many of us did, because Andy Smith is right on the pace, and you did say before this meeting opened, you thought Andy Smith, this could be his night.
Yeah, I come to practice yesterday, and he was very, very good. He was riding the inside, which is very unusual for Andy. He seems to put in these races, only if he could sustain this throughout the program, he'd be much better than what he is. But it was a great ride, but he made a little mistake, and Hancock took advantage of it. But it's still a good ride to finish 2nd ahead of Rickerson.
Kelvin, the Brits really do seem to be getting it together now, don't they? I mean, they can smell the taste of maybe an A final, I think.
Sure, yeah, it looks that way. I think they've each, after the first rides, they've relaxed a bit and really sort of like being able to ride to their full potential, and I think that it's perfectly possible for an A final.
Gary, you must be sick. I can see you sitting here at the moment. I mean, like, you must wish you were out there in this, surely.
Absolutely, I'd love to be out there, like I've said before, but at the end of the day, to me, the main thing is that a Brit wins, you know, and the lads look really fired up tonight. They've been doing some fantastic races, and I just pray to God that one of them can pull it off.
Well, let's see if Mark Loram can win in this one. Back to Peter Collins and, of course, Tony Millard.
And if I'm over-patriotic for the Brits tonight, you have to understand it, because in 4 previous Grand Prix, we've not had too much to cheer about this evening. There in red is Mark Loram. We'd love him to win this one. Coming up now into gate number 2 in blue is Peter Carlson, who's top of the pile tonight, the new track record holder, and certainly he's going to be the man to beat. In gate 3 and moving away now, you can see him in the distance there, the white helmet colours. That's the Pole, Thomas Gollob. And sitting calmly at the outside is Billy Hamill, from whom we expect great things. And of course, Billy Hamill at the moment certainly well up in the pack here in this Grand Prix series, and certainly wanting to make ground on Hans Nielsen at the top. This is no doubt going to be a really competitive race. Mark Loram has what Peter Collins regards as the best place on the inside. Peter, Joe Screen won from there last time out. Well, who knows what can happen here.
Well, there's lots of dirt now on the outside. The track's absolutely great, so I think we ought to give full praise to the track staff here, because the track's just like we expected, really, really good.
This is heat number 10. The starting marshal moves away. Can the Ram make it from the Tate? Away goes on the inside, but coming across is Thomas Golub in white. Going round the outside is Billy Hamill. The Ram is going to make it into second place. No, he's not, because Hamill keeps it down. Golub goes white. Coming through in second place there is Hamill, and now the Ram has an awful lot of work to do. Thomas Golub has found something new here after being last in both his races so far.
Yeah, well, Thomas Golub really looked pretty average in his first two rides, but he's certainly got something in this one. He's probably changed gears or something on his bike, and he's really following that dirt round the outside. He's just riding on the edge of it. He's not riding the inside slick part. He's right on the edge of that grip, and he's using it all really well.
The pole then putting the cat among the pigeons ahead of Billy Hamill in second place. Mark Loram is back in third, and disappointment, amazingly, for the fastest man here tonight, Peter Carlson, right at the back. That's a turn up for the books. We might reasonably expect in this one to finish in exactly the reverse order. Instead, it's finished with Thomas Golub winning it ahead of, in second place, Billy Hamill. Back in third place there was Mark Loram, I think, finished it in third place, but there's no doubt about the winner, Thomas Golub.
And we told you a lot of surprises.
Yes, Tony, if you watch this start here, Hamill on the outside, he rears, but he makes a good run to that corner. He knows he's got the grip out there, but Golub makes a really unsuspecting start from that white helmet position, and Golub really pushes Hamill wide there. He really gave him his back wheel. Hamill had to take evasive action at this stage, which almost let Mark Loram go by him, but then Hamill consolidated that position, but he couldn't catch at all Golub just kept going, using all that dirt. But you can see here that Hamill's chasing, but he's got no answer to Golub at all.
Well, we can see the start from a different angle perhaps here. There was a lift there from Carlson, and that probably cost him dear.
Yes, it did. You could see that. As soon as he dropped the clutch, the bike just stood upright, and instead of going forward, he went straight upwards. And unfortunately, his lead's gone now, and he's really dropped some points here in this one.
Well, it's certainly very open, Peter, now as a result of that, and the way they're interchanging places, it seems there's been sort of an evening in standards as we come to the London Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely great, because there's all sorts going on here. I mean, there's no clear-cut winner at this stage, and there's such a lot of riders who could certainly figure in the results.
Well, there is Craige Boyce, the Australian, who comes out in heat number 11 there. He has an awful lot to do from the inside. They're lining up. The nerve ends are jangling because places in the A final, well, I wouldn't want to be the man along this gallery from me, who's Anthony Ruprecht of the FIM, who has to work them all out. But certainly there in white we can see Chris Louis, who had such a startling ride last time, and I know that he'll be very confident this time. One has to look in a meeting like this, Peter, how much does confidence help, having won last time? Will Louis be really keyed up?
Well, I think he will. I mean, certainly after winning your last ride, it's always good to go out and sort of be in with a chance. But I mean, he's really psyched up for this one. But let's see what he can do against Nielsen, because Nielsen also had a very good last night, so we're going to see what happens.
Well, I know that Hans Nielsen is in confident mood here in this one. If I tell you that they had a little golf competition this morning, Hans Nielsen got his own back on the referee who won the golf competition in Sweden, and Hans won it today with 47 points, which shows what a bandit he could be both at golf and speedway. Hans Nielsen goes through gate number 2. There's Jason Crump on the outside. Crump, the Australian who rides for Peterborough, World Under-21 Championship allowed him to qualify for this. Coming up on the inside is Craige Boyce, which is the second of 2 Australians here. And the lineup completed, of course, Chris Louis going from gate 3. So it's Craige Boyce on the inside. Hans Nielsen is next to him. That's Boyce there. Gate 3 is Chris Louis. We can't quite see him, although we can now, as he puts his head down. And on the outside, that's Jason Crump. This is heat number 11, and every heat we have seems to unfold a different story and provide speedway of the highest caliber. Last year here at the London Stadium, it was great stuff. Here it's equally so. Boyce, Nielsen, Louis and Crump is the lineup as we get away with heat number 11, the starting marshal, getting them into line. The man pulling back is Chris Louis. The man on the outside there in yellow, that's Jason Crump. The colourful man in the middle, that's the starting marshal. As he moves away, the riders look down at the tapes and up they go. And away from gate 1 on the inside is Craige Boyce, but coming round in blue is Hans Nielsen. Nielsen going wider, picking up the grip, going really wide is Jason Crump, and losing out and through into second place comes Craige Boyce. Now battling is Chris Louis. Louis in last place and has a lot to do. It's really after the Lord Mayor's show for the Ipswich rider. Maybe he can pick it up. But Hans Nielsen here is the sort of rider that we saw last year in the Grand Prix, and in 3 individual world title wins, he's now looking at his best.
Yeah, superb start there. Beautiful first half of the race there from Nielsen. Poor old Chris Louis now, he's really struggling at the back. He made a dreadful first corner. No answer to Nielsen at all. Nielsen's just going away.
You can't afford to make mistakes in a race in which you have Hans Nielsen. Nielsen down that back straight now. In second place is Crump. Third is Boyce, and right at the back is Chris Louis. Real disappointment as the checkered flag comes now. And what was glory for the Brits just a few moments ago, this time it's disappointment all round, but no such disappointment for that man. 3 times the individual world champion, Grand Prix title holder, Grand Prix leader now, and he did it from here.
Yeah, that was a nice start in first corner there from Hans. You see how he trails his legs out, he's feeling for that grip. I mean, he's so slim and so fit on the bike there. He really wills that bike to that corner. He just puts his back wheel on the edge of the dirt. You can see Jason Crump there on the outside. He's too wide, which allows the rider in red there, Craige Boyce, to just zoom through on the inside. You can see it again there. Nielsen just throws his legs back. That puts all his weight onto the back wheel. He's still feathering the clutch. He still pulled it in a little bit before he let go of it completely. He puts the bike upright a little bit before he gets to the corner, before he makes his turn. As he turns, he pushes the rider on the outside wide. Now, look at his eyes. He's concentrating on making sure he's got a really nice run out of that corner. That was brilliant.
Well, certainly a different tale for the Brits there as we look now towards heat 12 and the riders getting ready in the pits. This will mean the completion of 3 rides for everybody. There's some talented riders coming out in this one, and none more so perhaps than Henrik Gustafsson, who will be going from the inside in this one. There'll be quite a lengthy interval after heat number 12. It allows track grading, rest for everybody. It allows the supporters to perhaps have a chance of some refreshment, and the riders most of all to have a rest. That's Leigh Adams there. Disappointing for him so far because Leigh hasn't had the best of nights, just 1 point from his 2 rides. He's coming up to tapes there, down the white helmet colours. On the inside is Henrik Gustafsson in the red helmet colours. There he is. Coming up in yellow is Sam Ermolenko. Ermolenko with 3 points from his 2 rides so far. Gustafsson on the inside from Sweden. Joe Screen from Bradford in England, gate 2, a heat victory last time out. Leigh Adams disappointing, just 1 point to date for the Australian from who rides here at the London Stadium, his home club London Lions. And that man on the outside off his machine is Sutton Sam Ermolenko, the oldest rider in the field, but certainly when he's at his best, he certainly doesn't show any respect for age. The starting marshal is having problems here in getting them up to tapes. He's going to win that battle. There can only be one winner. And there is Henrik Gustafsson. If he can make it, one has the feeling that Gustafsson will be the man to take the checkered flag. They look across. Up go the tapes. Away go Gustafsson on the inside. Ermolenko coming across. Gustafsson holds him wide. Can Ermolenko pick up the grip? He can on the inside. The challenge is on between the Swede Gustafsson in front. The American Sam Ermolenko is in second place, but he now loses out as Joe Screen comes through into second place. Joe Screen showing flair as his tear off from his visor flies off, and he moves into second place. A great pass there by Joe.
Yeah, Joe's certainly on the pace, isn't he, tonight? We've not seen a great deal from Joe in this Grand Prix series, but tonight he's really going for it, and that was a great manoeuvre there, the way he went past Sam Ermolenko.
Joe Screen is in second place behind the leader there, Henrik Gustafsson, away down the straight with a lap to go, leaving Sam Ermolenko back in third place, and tailed off at the rear is Leigh Adams, who's having a disappointing Grand Prix series, but Henrik Gustafsson out front. is going to win this for Sweden. Joe Screen, though, is continuing to show good form this evening. Gustafsson wheelie as he takes the checkered flag. But Joe Screen in second place. Valuable points for Joe Screen in second place. Back in third is Sam Ermolenko. But that man there with the punch of the effort to win, and as I said, from the inside he made it. Joe Screen was left back in third place at that point, but came good.
Yeah, Joe really got a knock there from Gustafsson. He really snaked off the line, and Gustafsson just took that first corner. He ran Ermolenko a bit wide. Ermolenko's in that dirt, but Gustafsson now's got the race under control. But look at Screen now, he's really got Ermolenko in his sights. He's just stalking him here. Ermolenko seems to be struggling a bit, coping with that heavy dirt there. Screen nips through there. He seems as though he's going to go through on the inside, which he does, and Ermolenko swaps to the inside, but he's really got no answer, because when they get to the other end, Screen comes across and holds that second place, and that's great for Screen. It's nice to see him going well.
Well, a second heat victory for Henrik Gustafsson, who retired in his second race. And the helmet camera with Leigh Adams appropriate at the back, giving us a view of the other riders here as darkness descends on the London Stadium. Plenty of action in front of us here, and most of that action was Henrik Gustafsson winning ahead of Joe Screen and Leigh Adams. And now in the pits with Julian Ryder, we can hear from the winner, Henrik Gustafsson.
Henka, mixed fortunes, but that was the best wheelie of the night.
Yeah, that's right. I've been going good myself, and I had engine problems in my second one. The engine seized.
Yep. So you're looking forward to an A final?
Yeah, I'm just going to try to do my best now and see how far I can get. I missed 3 points there, so... But if I can keep winning, I should be in the A final anyway.
Henka, thank you.
Well, at last we have a bit of a break here to grade the track, get it tidied up. The men in the studio here were a little bit concerned about track grading not being done just yet. Now they're grading the track. We've got all the British riders going extremely well. Screeny now takes over. 6 points Screeny's got. With the way that the points are distributed, this A final at the moment is going to have something like 16 riders in it. Kelvin, I think this meeting's well and truly alive.
Yes, it is, and it's so good that it's open. Everybody's dropping points, and it's keeping it everybody's interest, and obviously it's going to go right to the end. But the British boys are really performing well tonight, and that's great for the home crowd.
Gary, I think Joe Screen is out to slap the faces of the media, isn't he?
Absolutely, I hope he does, you know. There's nothing like
that surprises me.
Yeah, there's nothing like that, you know. Joe's really seemed to put it together tonight, and, you know, let's hope he can keep it going now. Everybody's dropping points as the leaders are leading on 7, and Joe's only one behind on 6, so let's hope he can really do it.
Barry, this race meeting, it's going to be technically quite interesting as we get later on in the evening. What are you seeing at the moment? What are you seeing the pattern of this meeting so far?
The pattern keeps changing, doesn't it? It looks as though there's a couple of dominant riders, and that's slipping away. Hans looks as though he's going to get a pointless ride, and he got that 1 point. And that 1 point now is important. It's pulled him out on 7 and left a load of boys on 6. So I think there's a lot to come. It looks as though the outside was getting faster, but now that they've had a couple of wins from the inside. Henka won the last race from the inside, so there's no real pattern that number 4 is the best start or the inside. So there's a lot of racing left.
A lot of racing left, and they're cleaning the track up nicely now. Let's take a look at the standings then after our first few heats. There they are, the top 8. Hans Nielsen, well, there's a surprise, isn't it? He's got 7 points. Hancock, though, has 7 as well. Carlson, Hamill, Crump, Screen and Gustafsson all on 6. And Mark Loram sneaks in there on 5 as well. And I think we've also got Andy Smith on 5 points too. That's outside that top 8 at the moment, or at least equal to Mark Loram. That's what it looks like now at the top 8. We're going to take another break. We'll be back in a moment with some more heats and the finals still to come up live here on Sky Sports.
Watching Sky Sports 2. The unpredictable.
This must be the place. Agent Mulder believes we are not alone.
The unthinkable.
Within a few hours, that parasite had total control. Oh my God. Mulder, you may not be who you are.
The unimaginable.
Nothing can prepare you for it. What kind of sick freak are you?
The unbelievable.
Come on again, I can feel it. Dwayne Barry is not what Mulder thinks he is.
The undeniable.
Nothing disappears without a trace. My name is in those files. Oh my God, Scully. What have they done?
The stars of the series introduce their favorite episodes.
The truth is out there.
These are the 5 X-Files that are The Chosen. A special presentation Sunday from 7 on the opening night of the new Sky 2.
Oh, we are looking sporty this morning.
Yes, Catherine wants me to play her brother. She thought he'd benefit from my expertise.
Hang on a minute. From the look of that racket, you haven't played in years.
Yeah, but a real sportsman never loses his touch.
It was good of you to let him win.
That's always been your problem. Generous to a fault.
The new Renault Megane, from £9,995 on the road. It talks your language. Sony Handycam Vision, because life isn't a spectator sport.
Welcome back. Hackney Stadium then being made ready for Heats 13. There's a huge crowd here and it's made up of generations of Speedway fans. And to prove that, Julian Ryder down in pit lane has got Jason Crump with him. His father is with him, Phil Crump, and also Jason's grandfather is here, Neil Street. They're all about. Neil Street, though, he's elusive. But Julian, you've got Jason and Phil there, I think.
I have, Keith. You might see Neil in the background. He's kicking about. Jason, though, wonderful last ride. Last to second. You must be pleased with that.
Yeah, I was. I kind of got to run a bit wide by hands on the first corner and thought the race could have been lost, but I kept going and ended up in second place with 2 points, which was good.
Now, Speedway fans my age will recognise this face here. Crump Senior, Phil. You proud of what the young lad's doing over here? Have you seen much of his Grand Prix riding?
I've seen a couple of the videos of the early Grand Prix. It's certainly very hard, and it's terrific to be over here to watch a British one.
We've got Barry Briggs up in the studio watching this. You got a message for Barry?
I know. Well, I think he's pretty good at what he's doing, the commentary. You know, we watch it in Australia on the videos, and, you know, he's certainly pretty informative what he's telling us.
That's the politest I can remember ever seeing him at a Speedway meeting. I used to watch him. He used to be called the Animal.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, a lot of people still remember Phil, which is really good for him when he comes back and watches some Speedway.
Good to see you both. Thank you, gentlemen.
The Animal. Any stories you'd like to tell us there, Barry?
That's a nice question. It's good to see Phil here. It's probably done a bit of good for Jason, I think, having his dad here just to cool him down, because I think that's why he hasn't been getting the points. It hasn't been definitely for the lack of trying, and he just needs the fatherland just quieting him down. It's showing tonight. He's got 3 really good, hard-fought second places.
Well, I think the feature of tonight seems to me to be how you make the gate. I know it always generally is in Speedway, and that's the one thing you riders always talk about, but tonight, more than any, there's 2 men that seem to have been making the gates. Billy Hamill and, of course, Hans Nielsen. Nielsen's starting has just been brilliant, Gary.
Nielsen's starting is always brilliant, you know, like, when you go into it, like somebody like myself, when I go into one of these Grand Prix meetings, I sort of think to myself, if I can make maybe 3 or 4 starts, I'm going to be in with a good chance, you know. Hans, like, if he doesn't make 3 or 4 starts, there's something wrong with him, and, you know, he's just phenomenal out the start.
Nothing wrong with him tonight. Kelvin, take a look at this, please, and tell me how he does it, because I don't understand.
Well, he's got fantastic throttle control and feel through the bike. You can see he's dragging his feet there, but the important bit was his clutch hand. I think maybe if we see it from the other way, he has a fantastic ability halfway to the corner to make the bike just hook up, and that gives him that extra yard as he gets into the corner.
Yeah, but he looks like he's doing a break dance on the saddle. I mean, what's all that about?
I think it's just his technique of working the bike forward to get as much grip as he enters the corner as he can. I don't think his reaction's any better than everybody else. I just think it's the way he makes the bike grip going to the first corner. I think the legs and the arms, that's all part of it. And as you see here, just holds the bike slightly straighter than the other guys and then slings it in.
Significantly to me, he wasn't so much on the clutch there as using all the throttle all the way through there. I mean, most of these guys are clutching it all the time, but Hans there, he looked like he dumped the clutch and he was straight on the throttle. Everything done throttle control.
Yeah, you tend to clutch it when the bike lifts, you know. You want to keep going forward if the bike's lifted. But the bike went forward initially, and he just then worked the bike with his body movement to get there. and he managed to do it.
Does it psych the other riders out when you've got someone that's consistently a quick starter? I mean, you've been on your feet in here, Kelv, trying to anticipate the gate going up from our studio, which I think is quite good fun. Well, perhaps get you a picture of that. Kelvin's on his feet next time.
Anticipation.
Yeah, but I think that, you know, from a rider's point of view, if you're going into a race with Hans Nielsen, you know you've got to make a tremendous start, because he is so consistent at it. Very rarely does he miss it, so you know that you've got to be right on the game.
What is it, psyche or what? The Brits seem to have it as well tonight. They're not missing the gate quite as badly as perhaps some of them.
Confidence.
Confidence. Gary?
Confidence is a big part. Confidence is a big part of speed. It's a big part of any sport, you know. Confidence is something Hans always seems to have, and like you said before about people being psyched out by him, I think a lot of the riders maybe do get psyched out with him. You know, if you're 100% confident and you're thinking about your own performance, then you maybe don't, but I think some of the riders probably do.
Barry, has it ever been any different? Self-belief is that the major ingredient if you've got the talent?
Yeah, I think it's very important to be confident. It appears when you're on a wave of winning, it's much easier. But I also notice that Hans, if he's half a wheel ahead, he doesn't turn too early for the corner. He lets the bike run there and worries about the corner when he gets there. The longer you keep a Speedway bike in line, the extra your advantage just getting to the first corner. I think he's very good at that.
Well, we can see now that heat 13 is rolling out to the grid at the moment. We'll be out there ready with Peter Collins and Tony Millard in just a moment or two. To go back to that, the starts again, it seems to me in the first turn, you talk about confidence at the start, but that first turn seems to be the thing that you need even more confidence with, because some of the riders seem to be slightly hesitant to chuck it under into turn one here, whereas Hans Nielsen, Billy Hamill, they're taking nothing from anyone, are they? They're basically going in there as hard as anybody can.
Sure, I think that, you know, again, the confidence factor of those guys, they're totally focused on the first corner. They're not allowing any other thoughts to come into their minds, and if they've got a little bit of daylight there, they're just going to take it. And I think that is the difference between guys at the top of the Grand Prix standings and the ones that are further down. What's good to see tonight is that people like Joe and Mark and Chris, having had not a particularly good run, are feeling strong enough in their minds to get there and have a real go.
Is that what a home advantage does to you, Gary?
Possibly, you know, it's great when all the British fans are here, the stadium's packed out, and you know, everybody's screaming for a home win, and you know, that really lifts the guys. You know, when you got Paul in place like that, and you see the support that Thomas Gollop has over there, and it's just phenomenal. And I think maybe not quite as much, but a little bit tonight. You know, the home fans are really lifting the Brits.
Well, Peter, I can tell you, and Tony Millard have had time for a cup of tea. We want to make them work hard tonight, so it's back to our commentators with this huge crowd looking in on them as well.
Well, as we look down, yes, it is a huge crowd. As we look across, we can see the Post Office Tower, we can see the towers of East London, and away to my left, the flashing tower of Canary Wharf. But here, on the track, it's heat 13, unlucky for some, but let's hope it's lucky for Mark Loram. That man there is Sam Ermolenko, the American, the oldest rider in the field. He'll be going from the inside gate and has just 4 points to his name so far. Man in blue, though, is the one we're looking to. That's the British hope. That's Mark Loram. He'll be going from gate number 2. And Mark with 5 points to his name so far. Still in with a chance of making that A final, but he needs to produce the goods. They're waiting for the markings to be put back in place at the starting gate after the track's been graded. The riders having had quite a long break, of course, between heats, because heat 12 is the big interval time, which allows everybody to have a cup of tea, a glass of beer, or even a stale sandwich. But here, this is heat 13. Mark Loram concentrating, setting his visor. He knows that this is going to be absolutely vital if he's going to stay perhaps even in next year's Grand Prix, because he has to finish in the first 8. And at the moment, on my calculations, Mark Loram is down at 12th. But he needs a lot. He has a bit to do, but he's not too many points behind. Peter, this is going to be important for Mark Loram. With Crump, Ricardson and Ermolenko, it's not going to be easy.
No, Mark's really got to do well in this one. But the thing is, in this kind of meeting, I think it's great because the meeting builds up and builds up until we get to the finals, and the pressure's building all the time. So as the meeting goes on, it really does get more exciting, and I'm sure more and more tense for those riders.
Well, it's certainly going to be tense for that man, Tony Ricardson, because he's in 3rd place in the standings. desperately needs to make ground on Hans Nielsen, because at the moment he's just 9 points behind his ace rival. I can tell you they're rivals on the golf course as well. They were playing together this morning, and it was Nielsen that came out on top of that man Rickardsson this time. Rickardsson playing a few games, and he's going to be last up to tapes. He's getting up there now. On the inside is Sam Ermolenko in red from the USA. Mark Loram is next to him in the blue helmet colours, the Englishman on whom hopes are resting here at the London Stadium. Phil Crump is the father of Jason Crump, the man in the white helmet colour. We were talking with Phil a few moments ago. He once came third, of course, in the World Final. The World Final in 1976, I think, won by the man next to me, Peter Collins. And there on the outside in yellow and black, that is Tony Rickardsson. And that little bulge on the top of his helmet is our helmet camera. And we won't see too much if he's behind them, because all the dirt will throw up in his face. But if he's out front, well, you'll get an impression of what it is like to lead a heat in the Grand Prix. That is Sam Ermolenko. Ermolenko, of course, a former world champion. Tony Rickardsson, a former world champion. They won back-to-back world titles between them. The man down there controlling them. Loud jacket, loud hat. And certainly a little bit of work to do. There he is, that man. Decorative morning coat with a checkered flag on the back. And the sort of crazy hat that you wouldn't want to be seen dead in out in the city of London, I don't expect. There they are, he's got them settled. Heat 13 is on the way. Can they make it from the inside? Can Sam Ermolenko make it? Can Mark Loram make it? Mark Loram is squeezed out. He's back in third place. It comes tight. Ermolenko is out front. Coming through is Crump, and at the back is Tony Rickardsson. It's all going wrong for the former world champion of 2 years ago. But now coming through there is Crump. At the back is Rickardsson. And into second place goes Mark Loram, out in pursuit of Sam Ermolenko. The battle is joined out front as Loram takes the short way round, makes ground on the American out front. Can Loram catch him? He needs a mistake, for my money, from Sam Ermolenko.
Yeah, Loram's really having a go here at Ermolenko. Mark's just got his wheel right on the edge of that dirt. He's really making ground on him there. Ermolenko's not pulling away at all, and Mark's really got that throttle wide open.
Sadly, it's Mark Loram that locks up a little bit on that bend to leave Ermolenko out in front, but he has another go. Can he do it? No, Ermolenko is going to take this one. Ahead of in second place, Mark Loram. Third in white is Jason Crump, and at the back is Tony Rickardsson, for whom it is all going very wrong with just 5 points for his name so far. But the reborn veteran American, Sam Ermolenko, won that one, and he was there all the way.
Yeah, we can see the start there. You can see on the outside Rickardsson with the helmet camera. He's really, really running round the outside. He thinks he can possibly get round the outside of Ermolenko, but all the dirt's been pulled back now by the tractors and the grading during the interval. And Mark Loram sweeps underneath Rickardsson there to follow home Ermolenko. You can see Ermolenko there. He ran into that corner, he ran a bit wide, he ran into that dirt, made a nice turn, and Loram trying desperately up the inside. We can see this helmet camera here. Look at that shot there. You see Ermolenko, you can see Loram diving up the inside as he shoots by Ermolenko.
Yes, the helmet camera is facing the rear from Tony Rickardsson at the back. We seem to have this luck with that helmet camera. When our man has it facing backwards, he's last. When he's facing forwards, he's in front. But that is Tony Rickardsson on the outside. And the helmet camera through this series hasn't exactly brought the riders too much luck, has it? Out front there is Sam Ermolenko, the heat winner, ahead of Mark Loram in second place and Jason Crump in third. Heat 14 is about to come up and they're getting ready. But really that was quite a competitive Heat 13, and Sam Ermolenko will be reflecting on that perhaps as the heat that turned his fortunes in the Grand Prix series. He had an encouraging meeting at Linköping, and now he's going to climb, and we can talk to that very man down in the pits with Julian, is sudden Sam Ermolenko.
Sam, for an old guy, that was pretty damn good.
Well, I had to do it. I tell you what, my second, third race, I had bike problems. Something to do with the carburetor, and we persevered with it in the third race, and it cost me points. So we switched to the second bike, and at least it didn't give me any problems, and I was able to win the race. Unfortunately, I lost too many points already, but
But every point counts. Everybody's beating everybody else tonight.
Boy, I got to win the next one to make sure I got a chance, but I'll do my best.
No.
Well, Sam Ermolenko there, no doubt about the quality of his win in that one. And coming out in this one is a much younger American on the inside there, Billy Hamill. Next to him is Henrik Gustafsson. Craige Boyce will fill that gap in gate 3 as he comes up to tapes now. And on the outside is Andy Smith. And there would be a major surprise here if this did not rest between those two on the inside, Billy Hamill, and that man in red is Billy Hamill and Henrik Gustafsson. The starting marshal is having problems there, forcing his way between two riders who are riding close together. Up go the tapes, away on the inside goes Billy Hamill to the fore, pursued by the rider in white, Craige Boyce, and in the sandwich is Hamill now, as Boyce surprisingly goes round the outside. He's not had a great time in this Grand Prix series. Maybe it's the warm-up for his next ride when he comes up against Thomas Golob. We're all looking forward to that one. But that is out front, the Australian Craige Boyce from Sydney. In second place is Billy Hamill, the young American who won the Swedish Grand Prix. Back in third is the Swede Henrik Gustafsson, and at the back is Andy Smith. Perhaps he flattered to deceive early on, but the quality of Boyce in this one, I wonder if he's changed something, Peter.
Well, quite possibly, probably changed gears or jets in the carburettor or something, but he's certainly not getting away from Hamill. Hamill's really having a go now, and that dirt's moving out again, and Hamill's diving up the inside now.
With half a lap to go, Hamill is trying to squeeze through on the inside. Can he do it? Boyce holds him off to take the checkered flag. In second place is Billy Hamill. Back in third is Henrik Gustafsson. The odd results continue to roll in. The points continue to be divided. And that man, Craige Boyce, picks up his first heat victory of the evening and did it brilliantly right from the start.
Yeah, this start was really, really interesting. You can see Billy Hamill there. He makes a nice start. He pulls across. He runs slightly wide. Gustafsson's on the inside of him there. Hamill realises that, he pulls across the front of Gustafsson and stops him, and that allows Craige Boyce, who we hadn't seen, to shoot down on the outside. He really caught him out on that one, and he tried as much as he could. He couldn't have enough speed to get by.
Well, he went all the way there, and this was quite a surprise. And when he did it on that bend and then held it, Billy Hamill kept chasing, and he tried several ways to get round him, Peter. Yeah, he did. He was really all over Boyce. He tried outside, inside, everything. He was actually quicker than Boyce. Probably lap times were slightly quicker than Boyce's, but he just could not get by him. But poor Gustafsson there in third place, having to take the 1 point. Well, it's enough at the moment to keep Billy Hamill in front, and as we look ahead, anything can still happen. And let's hear about that rather odd result from that Australian from Sydney, Craige Boyce, who is down in the pits with Julian Ryder.
Craige Boyce, you pulled that one out the bag.
Yeah, you know, really struggling tonight. Just too much horsepower, so I just done a radical change on the bike and with a big gear change, and it worked, so I won the heat. I was struggling a little bit with Billy behind me, you know, so I'm happy I've got a few points now.
And, of course, the next heat, you're facing your old chum, Mr. Golob.
Oh, well, that'll be fun.
Yeah, but seriously, Craig, everyone's beating everybody else tonight. Every point is going to matter, isn't it? You could be in a B final or a C final with 1 point.
That's right, you know, every point counts, and everybody's dropping points and getting all the points, so have to wait and see what's going to happen.
We can't wait.
Cheers.
Well, Craige Boyce, a happy man there, and the smile that we haven't seen too much so far. We were right about what he changed, and now let's see what's going to change down here. And disappointing for me, because Tommy Knudsen, who goes from the inside, is clearly not race fit. He's finding it mighty tough, Peter. Collins alongside me, simply not strong enough perhaps on the night.
Yeah, we saw that right from the beginning, didn't we? Tommy's really slow on the bike, and he's really having a rough time, and he's seeming to realise that himself, and he's tailing off now as the meeting's going on.
Well, it's Chris Louis going from gate number 2. That man in yellow there is Peter Carlson, who was so fast in his first 2 races, but then amazingly last time out. But on the inside, Tommy Knudsen, Chris Louis with just 3 points to his name, a brilliant ride in his second outing. I think we all want to see him repeat that here. That's Chris Louis in blue there, trying to make sure that he gets a decent start. And I think you'll find down here that the starting marshal is going to have to exercise a little bit of discipline, because nobody seems to want to come up just yet. Louis is there. Carlson is there, and now turning round and going back is Leigh Adams. Disappointing night for Leigh Adams. Tommy Knudsen is going from the inside, but we wait now for Leigh Adams to come up to tapes, and our decorative starting marshal is having to work as hard as anyone out there to get things going. This start's going to be important, Peter.
It certainly is. That man in the middle there has really got his hands full with these, but it's going to be very interesting here to see what Peter Carlson can do after that bad showing in his last race.
Starting marshal walks away. Carlson, who started so well, has to do it from the outside. Knudsen, well, he's there to the bend first, and there goes Carlson round the outside. The stronger man is surely going to pull away. Knudsen perhaps chickens out of that. Through into second place goes Chris Louis, and now the Brit has hopes. Can he pursue Carlson? Carlson down the straight, picks up the speed. Perhaps a changing gear or something there has given him the pull, because down that back straight he's pulling away as if the others are standing still. Louis back in second place. The others really are nowhere, but Carlson is very, very fast.
Yeah, Chris Louis there in second place. His bike seems to be smoking a bit as he's pulling out of the corners, so possibly he may have a problem there at the moment.
Well, looking back, Peter Carlson is fast and furious. Down the front straight with 3/4 of a lap to go. Peter Carlson is out there in front in the yellow helmet colours. The Swede is having it all his own way. Valuable 2 points to Chris Louis. Back in third place in the red helmet colours is Tommy Knudsen. Indeed, disappointment at the back for Leigh Adams, as it has been all night for the Australian, who's got just 1 point. But that man there, Peter Carlson from Sweden, is fast all the way.
Yeah, Carlson really made it, didn't he, off the outside there, and I think probably all the riders have changed gear ratios now on the back wheel, and Carlson's got the best run around the corner there. He's got much wider radius, but you see Knudsen almost runs into his back wheel and almost high-sided it there, and I mean that's the last thing you want to do when you've got a dodgy collarbone, and I'm sure he was very concerned about that.
Well, there we are. That's what happened there, and the lads down in the studio, I'm sure, have an opinion on how things are going.
We've always got an opinion, Tony Millard, almost as strong as yours. I've got to say, though, that Peter Carlson, he has been superb tonight. Gary, tell us a bit about this guy.
Well, you know, he's a very good rider. He's a very hard rider. He rides the small tracks really good. And apart from that one race where he stood it up off the start line, he's had 3 wins. And, you know, he's probably going to be the leader now, and he's looking very good.
He is the leader at the moment on 9 points as far as my calculations go. Not that you can trust them, of course, Kelvin. Carlson, I've got to say, this has got to be the best Grand Prix he's had so far as my memory goes anyway. He's looking consistently good, not just good now and again.
Yeah, he finished second in Pocking, didn't he? So that was a good result for him. But I've ridden with Peter for about 7 years in Sweden and a Swedish League club, and he's always been a good rider, and I think it's just the self-belief in him. And like this sort of going suits him. His home track Wolverhampton's a small one, and he's really making the most of it.
The crowd are absolutely loving this, Barry, tonight. It's a very, very slow, very, very close competition.
Yeah, it's amazing how the points are getting divided around, and you look at the program now, you still can't see who's going to be in the A final. So that's what it's all about, and it's getting through to the public by the sound of it.
Big crowd here. They've absolutely been treated to a wonderful night so far tonight. There's no wind here at all. All the flags have dropped now. It's a very warm evening indeed, and the racing is absolutely hot. And of course, the best man to give us more views on that, Peter Collins and Tony Millard. Tony.
This is Heat 16, and the best man in this is undoubtedly surely going to be that man on the inside, Hans Nielsen, the leader of the Grand Prix Series. But with him is Greg Hancock in blue, Joe Screen, who's get the cheers of the Brits going. He's going from gate 3, and the controversial Pole, Thomas Golob, is on the outside wearing the yellow helmet colours in this one. So, who's going to win this? Hans Nielsen will make it from the inside perhaps. Greg Hancock will chase him all the way. We can expect something special from Joe Screen, who's carrying the helmet camera. We know what happens when that's aboard. And on the outside, Thomas Golob, Peter Collins, an interesting quartet here.
Yeah, if they're going to stop Nielsen's run here, Screen or Hancock really need to beat him. They can't let him get away now. And the way they've been going, they've got every chance of doing that. But we'll see what Hans does here on the start. Let's see if he can do one of his magic starts again. But I'll be rooting for Joe Screen, that's for sure, because I want to see these English lads do good.
We all want to see the English lads do good, and what a coup it would be if Joe Screen could come in front of the other three in this one. Heat 16 completes 4 rides for each. At the moment, Peter Carlson leading the field with 9 points, but he can be overtaken here by either Craige Hancock or Hans Nielsen. He could go to 10 with a victory in this one. This is heat number 16. Starting marshal moves away. Nearly into the tapes goes Screen, but it's Nielsen out front, but here comes Thomas Golov to put the cat among the pigeons. Round the outside goes the pole. He picks it up. Hans Nielsen is in second place. Back in third is Craige Hancock. Joe Screen has it all to do, but Golov took the wide racing line and kept it.
Well, Golov was a surprise package there, wasn't he? He sneaked round that first corner, again on the outside. The outside starting gate really is coming into its own now, and Golov knows all the dirt's out there. He really is riding wide there in that dirt, and this track really is in lovely condition, and he's using it to his best advantage here.
There can be no complaints about the riders on this track, sir. It is absolutely brilliant for Speedway. We haven't had to discuss tyres, slick tracks, grading, watering or anything, just good racing. There is Thomas Golov down the back straight with half a lap to go. He's going to win this. The man in yellow is going to take the checkered flag. The pressure coming on from Nielsen in second place, and in third place that is Craige Hancock. But the points continue to be divided. So 2 points for Nielsen means he gets a share of first place after 4 rides apiece. It's still a very open meeting because the leader has only 9, but Golov did it from the outside here. He came across well.
Yeah, there's Nielsen in the red on the inside. He makes the start, but Golov on the outside makes a lovely corner there. He's got a bigger radius than Nielsen's made. Nielsen has to turn much tighter there on the inside, and Golov can keep his speed up, and he's really got 4 or 5 yards clear of Nielsen on that first lap. I mean, that was absolutely great there from Golov, because to do that over Hans Nielsen, it really takes some doing.
A real disappointment for Joe Screen at the back, and frankly, Peter, there, he wasn't at the races, was he?
No, he wasn't. Everything was going on ahead of him there. It was all happening. I mean, Screen's got the camera on here. You can see Golov certainly whizzed by him just there. It was really, really quick there from Golov. He really seemed to have something very special on that first corner. That gear change or whatever Golov's done has really made a difference, and he's certainly come into his own now. And we can see it all there from Screen's camera.
Well, all Joe Screen has done in that one is to give us a good view of the racing. The camera doesn't seem to bring the rider with it aboard too much luck, but I know down in the studio they're enjoying all of this. It's a really competitive meeting, and we can hear from the lads what they feel about it.
Still 4 heats left to go yet, though, and I'm beginning to sweat in here at the moment. I mean, we've got 3 guys on 9 points at the moment, Hancock, Carlson and Nielsen. And no one looks like giving a hell of a lot here, but a bit of a disaster there from Joe Screen.
Yeah, they held the tapes quite a long time.
Hang on a second.
And it almost looked like he tried to anticipate the start, and he missed it. And against 3 guys like that, he was going to be up against it. But it was a shame, because Joe had an opportunity there to really sort of keep the momentum going.
Well, we've still got just 2 points in it in so many places in this at the moment. The A final bundle is going to be a real problem. Actually, before we get talking about that, let's take a look at those points now, exactly how they're shaping up. And these are absolutely right. These are not my calculations. Here they are. Peter Carlson then on 9. And I was wrong, of course. Hans Nielsen is in there on 9 as well. Billy Hamill on 8. Craige Hancock on 8. So look at just this. Mark Loram, though, still in with a good shout here. And he's racing tonight, no doubt. He's not there making up the numbers. Henka Gustafsson, the most unlucky man I've ever seen in Speedway. It's certainly Grand Prix Speedway. Is still hanging in there with 7 points. Jason Crump still there with 7 points as well. And Sam Emelianenko as well on 7 points. So feverish activity down in the pits. And interestingly there, Gary, you were saying earlier on about too much horsepower doesn't make for much grip round here.
Not necessarily, no. On the small tight ones where you've got to, you know, back the bike into the turn and get it to hook up and drive out the corner, you know. If you've got an engine which is too powerful, you just get too much wheel spin. Sometimes it's better to have a softer engine for tracks like this.
Well, talking to softies, we've got 2 of them that come together in the next race. For those of you that remember Hackney, what do you remember about Hackney 1995? I bet it had something to do with Boyce and Golov. They meet for the first time since 95 after the break.
Yeah, that was awful, really. I mean, Golov's done it again, hasn't he? The very last Grand Prix race of this year that he was competing in, he has to go and take Craige Boyce off the bike completely.
Oh, look at this! Well, Prince Hamid in Cardiff will have nothing on Craige Boyce. Craige Boyce is surely the cruiserweight champion of Australia. He has laid out Thomas Golob, and I think we said 2 or 3 Grand Prix races ago, we said that somebody sooner or later would land one on Thomas Golob, and that was the best right hook they've seen in East London.
A union of strength. A union of dedication. A union of sporting revolution. As the world's top players cross borders, codes, and club colours to play in the most exciting club rugby season ever. Ford Maverick Rugby Union, next Saturday at 2, Leicester v Bath, live on Sky Sports 1.
Watch this. See if it doesn't ring a bell. Grown-up child rings home.
Hi, it's me.
Hello, love. I'll get your mother.
Frantic action down in pit lane, but it's all going to happen now. Heat 17, Rickardson, Boyce and Golob side by side. Blue is Boyce and white is Golob. Leigh Adams is also out there, and we go back to our commentators, Peter Collins and Tony Millard, for the action. Tony, are you looking forward to this one?
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to it. I don't think somehow that we're going to get the same battle of the boxers that we had here last year. Rickardson, though, needs points on the inside. Boyce won his last heat. Golob's won his last 2. Adams hasn't really been at the races. It's going to be an interesting race. It will battle out for the minor placings, surely, among those finals. But Rickardson, if he's not very careful, could even miss out on the B final, and that will see him trailing, and that will make it very, very difficult for him to make ground in that final Grand Prix. This, Peter Collins, is a tough one for Tony Rickardson.
Yes, it certainly is. The way Golob's going now, Rickardson's really got something now to sort this one out. Golob also has got one of the outside gate positions.
Well, here we go. This is heat number 17. Rickardson, Boyce, Golob and Adams. The starting marshal has moved away. Rickardson's going to have to pick this up, but there goes the pole, and he's off, he's off, he's off! And who took him off? The man in the blue helmet colours was Craige Boyce. On the 30th of August last year, they had an altercation. This is the 31st of August this year. They've had an altercation again, and we're going to have to see. The referee has excluded Craige Boyce, who's got his own back on Thomas Golob, it seems, by flooring him. Craige Boyce is out of the rerun, and could we see some interesting action in the pits? Because there, it seemed to me that Craige Boyce went straight at him, Peter.
Well, we've got that same thing happening again, haven't we now? Golob looks a bit concerned there about what happened, but I think it's a bit unfortunate that Boyce has been excluded, because there's times when this has happened when it's just been first bend bunching. But we can see this here now again. Boyce there in the blue helmet makes a nice start, but Golob's leaning across. When they get to the corner, it was only just a slight nudge, really.
Well, for my money, Peter, I think that Thomas Golob threw himself off, because it hardly saw that Boyce touched him.
Well, I think he was going for an Oscar there, wasn't he, when he was lying on the track, and I think he's got what he wanted, and that's getting Craige Boyce excluded. But I think that's a bit hard on Boyce this time round.
Well, clearly Craige Boyce is next to the phone to speak to the referee here, and he's clearly going to have a word with the referee.
Hello, like, what was the problem there? Yeah, what was the problem? Why am I excluded? It was a hard first corner. It happens to me all the time. I didn't touch him. Hang on, can you talk to the Australian team manager?
I'm talking. Surely you could see that, but there was no touch there at all. You would, if you, well, I could see, I was standing watching. Yeah, and I could see it very accurately too.
Then on heats number 17, blue exclusion light, as one was confirmed to us.
You didn't touch him, please.
Oh, we go then. Down to the line.
Let's get you by the monitor, talk you to us, Craig.
Well, that, Peter Collins, looks as if Craige Boyce was right in his conversation with the referee, and there wasn't actually a touch. We can see it again.
Well, it happened a bit sooner than that. You can see here, Boyce there. Boyce is in the blue. He's looking at him, but he's made a turn.
Let's hear what Craige Boyce has to say about it.
Well, our commentators reckon, Craig, you didn't touch him.
Well, it was just on the TV there, you know, like we just had a look at the replay and it shows I didn't touch him, but I don't know, you know, the referees, they make their rash decisions and...
Here we go again, Craig.
Yeah, well, I didn't feel a touch and, you know, I didn't make the greatest of starts, but I pushed hard in the first corner and, like, it's, you know, first turn bunching, but, like, he come right across on me and there you can see, I can't really see it. I didn't even touch it. But anyway, the referees made another great decision.
Thank you, Craig.
Well, Craige Boyce finishes his night on just 4 points. It's yet another Grand Prix disappointment for him, and I'm sure that looking at that, he was distinctly unlucky in the end. And let's see what happens here. What it will do is create another opportunity for Tony Ricardson to come back in this. Ricardson has plenty of space there on the inside. Golob has Adams outside him, but nobody inside him. Golob can dive across here. And Peter, could we have a confrontation this time between Golob and Ricardson?
Well, with Thomas Golob in the race, you know, anything can happen. We've seen so many surprises from him, although this year he has been a little bit quiet, but certainly from that one, we know he's still capable of it.
Well, it never ceases to amaze me, the sort of antics, but he's a colourful rider, and I think many people believe that they need that sort of thing in Speedway to bring in the fans. And the FIM would probably tell you that's why they made him the wild card in 3 meetings so far. There he is, he's the man in white. On the inside is Tony Ricardson. On the outside is Leigh Adams. The starting marshal has pulled away. This time Golob has no challengers as he moves into that first bend. Discretion, the best part of valour perhaps for Tony Ricardson, because he's leaving plenty of space for the pole, who in his last 2 rides has been quick and now certainly is in this one. And it looks to me now as if Thomas Golob is going to have this Heat 17 all his own way.
Yeah, you know, if Golob wins this, he's going to get another 3 points and that'll take him on to 9, and it's really going to put him up there within the front runners, especially after that bad first ride that he had. The way he's leading Ricardson here now, he is really coming into his own.
Well, I know that they're contemplating giving him another wild card at Boyens, and certainly he believes he should have been in the Grand Prix Series in the first place. He missed out from that Lanigo Challenge last year, but he's showing his worth as one of Europe's top riders here now. In white, Thomas Golob is out front, going wider and wider, picking up the grip, picking up the speed, and here he's going to take the checkered flag ahead of Tony Ricardson in 2nd place. Back in 3rd place is Leigh Adams, for whom it's been a desperately disappointing night. There are not too many Polish fans here. The Swedish fans on the back straight, who see something of him in their league, are cheering the action there from Thomas Golob. It's Mark Loram looking on in the pits, but here Thomas Golob made it like a jet-propelled fighter from the gate.
Yeah, I really think he was sat on a rocket there as he dropped that clutch. He just launched himself into that first corner.
Well, we can go back to the studio and let's hear what Gary Havelock has to say about that incident.
Gary, this incident with Craige Boyce and Thomas Golob, I mean, even from where we were sat, it was a very difficult one to call for the ref.
It was a difficult one, but I think I'd like to agree with what Peter Collins said, that Golob should get an Oscar, you know. We seen it last year when Boyce hit him. He stayed on the floor for about 20 minutes and he got up and he was all right. And same thing again there, you know. There was a bit of a nudge going into the corner, but nothing you don't see in everyday racing.
Talk us through it then. Let's take another look at it from both angles. We've got
Craige Boyce has made the start. He's going in a straight line, and Golob's coming across, trying to get across him. Get to the car. Look at him leaning on him. We get to there, it looks just there's a little touch, but nothing serious. And then Golob's like turned for the corner. All of a sudden he's looked back and he thought, I'll put this down and get in the rerun.
Get my boy out of the way. Yeah. Kelvin, your view on this, please.
I think I agree with Gary. I think there was a slight nudge, and I think as soon as Thomas felt a slight nudge on him, he thought immediately, mentally, he thought, I'm putting the bike down. Because, you know, he just felt that, you know, that's his mentality, you know, like, oh, I'm going to crash, and he's put the bike down and he's gone for a rerun, and it's come off for him.
Barry, you thought it was Boyce, didn't he?
Yeah, no, but Boyce also, when he touched him, didn't turn the corner very good.
So in your view?
Got about nowhere to go. I think the referee should have look at the television and a decision like that, and probably all 4 riders back, in my opinion.
Well, 2-1 almost, but I think we're all agreed that Boyce shouldn't have been excluded from here in the studio. We can go back now to Peter Collins and Tony Millard.
In time for Heat 18 now, in which Hans Nielsen could clinch a place in the A final. Billy Hamill could clinch a place in the A final. Sam Ermolenko has a chance too, but sadly Tommy Knudsen is there in the yellow and black helmet colours on the outside. This could well be his swan song in Grand Prix Speedway, because it's not been a great night for the great Dane who's come back to Speedway. It's his first competitive meeting since crashing out with a collarbone injury in Lanigo. But let's look across. Nielsen, Hamill, Ermolenko and Knudsen. Danes on the outside and inside. In the sandwich, 2 Americans, the young and old, Hamill and Ermolenko. This promises to be a very competitive heat, and 3 of the riders have a chance of making that A final. Nielsen, Hamill and Ermolenko. For your money, Peter Collins alongside me, who's going to win this one?
Well, we've got Nielsen in there again, haven't we? We keep going back to Nielsen, but the way he can pull it out of the bag, I mean, he's like a magician, isn't he? He always pulls the rabbit out when he needs one.
Well, look at that man, Sutton Sam. He certainly produced the goods when it's counted here tonight. He's had a heat victory, he's had a 2nd place, 2 thirds. He's back in the action. He came back well in Linköping. That in blue is Billy Hamill, who of course won in Sweden. Starting Marshall walks away. Nielsen is away, pursued by Hamill. Coming across is Knudsen, back is Ermolenko at the back, but he now comes through in 2nd place. Hamill and Ermolenko are battling, but Hans Nielsen, the current world champion, the current Grand Prix title holder, this, if he wins this, will give him 12 points and make him certain of a place in the A final, and that will protect his lead. Hamill too could make it, but Tony Ricardson seems unlikely to make the A final here tonight. With 2 laps gone, Hans Nielsen appears to be getting quicker and quicker. Billy Hamill is in 2nd place. 10 points for Hamill, this will take him to. It might just be enough to qualify him for the A final, but Nielsen is certainly going to be there. Nielsen in red is having this all his own way. It's a bit of a procession, this one. He made it from the gate, the professor, and he's now going to take the checkered flag first, ahead of Billy Hamill in blue. Back in 3rd place is Sam Ermolenko, who's not had a bad night. Tommy Knudsen, sadly, will be in the D final, but that man there, Hans Nielsen, 3 times an individual champion, once a Grand Prix title holder, and here perhaps on his way to another.
Yeah, you couldn't see a better start than that from Nielsen. You see how he's on one, he rushes right across the rider in blue, which is Billy Hamill, and stops him altogether, stops him coming around the outside, then he makes his turn, and then just disappears into the distance, and he's just then got the 2 Americans trailing in his wake. You see Ermolenko there, really tangling there with Billy Hamill as they go down the back straight, but Hamill manages to shrug that off, and he stays in that 2nd, but that's the best he's going to do, get 2nd, because Nielsen's got absolutely every chance of staying ahead, and he does it there.
Well, Nielsen did it there to make sure of his place in the A final. It all went right for him all the way from the tapes. The heat won by Hans Nielsen ahead of Billy Hamill and Sam Ermolenko. The first 2 of them surely now set for a place in that A final, and it's going to be a final to remember, I think, because they've all shown form here. And I just get that feeling that Hans Nielsen is getting it all right just in the right time.
Yes, you did right, Tony. Like I said, he can always pull a rabbit out of the bag when he needs one, and he certainly did then. And now in the A final, that's just what Hans needs, and he can rise to the occasion now.
Well, we know and we expect him to be there. Hans Nielsen now seemingly certain of a place in that A final. And we can hear now about one of his challengers, who's down in the pits. The lively young American with Julian Ryder is Billy Hamill.
Billy, 2nd, good enough for the A final?
I don't know. I got to sit here and sweat for a while. There's a few races left, and you know, all I can do now, I've done everything I could tonight, and I got myself in a little bit of a vulnerable position, but it could be worse. So I'll sit here and sweat it out and hope for the best.
Let's assume you get there. You've got Hans to deal with again. The way the guy's gating, you're going to have your work cut out.
I got my work cut out, but I've always had my work cut out. That's when I work best. So we'll just have to wait and see.
We know it, Billy.
Well, we're now moving on to Heat 19, and as the places start to work themselves out, Nielsen is certain, but here with 2 Brits in contention, and Henrik Gustafsson and Greg Hancock in this one have a chance of making the A final. Chris Louis with just, so far, will find it very, very difficult with just 5 points to his name. He certainly can't make that A final. Craige Hancock is at the moment in a position where he could. He has 8 points so far. Gustafsson, Hancock. The Ram has a chance too of making that A final with 7 points to his name. It's all going to be sorted out shortly. This is Heat 19. The British interest, the brothers-in-law in the inside 2 places. Chris Louis in red, Mark Loram in blue. With them, Henrik Gustafsson in white, the Swede. And on the outside, Craige Hancock, winner of this London Grand Prix last year, the American, all still in contention here for places in next year's Grand Prix, and 3 of them certainly battling for the chance of a place in that A final. The outside 3, Loram, Gustafsson and Hancock, all have a chance. Hans Nielsen already there with 12 points. This is Heat 19. The starting marshal has been patient all night, moves away. Louis and Loram on the inside. Can they do it? Away they go. The tape didn't go up properly there. Surely the referee will stop that one and bring them all back to tapes. They will all have to come back for this one. Somebody help us out on this gap. The gate is being dismantled here. The gate has been dismantled. There is a major fault on the starting gate, and we'll have to see. This is going to take some time. We're going to wait. There's going to be a little bit of a delay while they repair this starting gate. But they're getting a new tape over. There was an error, or was a fault on the inside, and they're going to replace it. So down there, these sort of things happen in Speedway. Keith Hewen and the lads know of many occasions, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it always seems to happen here, though, doesn't it, Kelvin?
Yes, it does. Unfortunately, Hackney have sort of been plagued by that trouble actually throughout the year, so it doesn't surprise me. But it can be awkward for the rider that it catches. It can actually pull you off the bike, but fortunately it didn't for Chris.
Well, time for a bit of minor adjustments, of course, to make sure they get the gate absolutely dead right. Gary, a crucial time in the night for a bit of a hiccup like this.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think Henka there, he actually looked like he missed the start there. So hopefully this time luck will be on his side. He'll have a second bite of the cherry, and maybe he can make it, because a winner will put him in the A final. Hopefully. This
A final, I think, is going to be one electrifying evening, isn't it? I mean, the A final itself is looking to shape up really well. Hamill, to me, he could just sneak it. We've seen Hans Nielsen sort of absolutely foot perfect, inch perfect this evening, but Hamill, he's got a smile on his face as broad as Hackney Stadium.
I think anybody can win it, you know, once they get it. A lot of the time the top scorer doesn't always win the A final, and I think it's such a pressure ride, especially on a track like this. The first 30 yards is going to be absolutely crucial.
Well, it looks like they've fixed the gate now. No doubt they'll test it before we get the riders lined up again. So we've got a few minutes yet, so we can go back to, yep, there goes the test. We can go back now to Peter Collins and, of course, Tony Millard, and no doubt it'll all go wrong when we get back to you guys.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Our camera having a look at what looks a little bit of a rusty mechanism there. I know it's, and they're still giving problems to Chris Louis. They brought the gate straight down on his head that time, but maybe nerves showing perhaps for the starting crew as well as the riders as the meeting moves to its climax, because really we've had some marvellous stuff here, and this promises to be equally so, because the battle is going to be joined. The two Brits here are riding for pride. Loram for a possible place in that A final. Gustafsson and Hancock certainly for a place in the A final. And the starting marshals to get them there quickly. Peter Collins, does that upset the nerves when that happens at the gate?
Well, yeah, I mean, you saw last year with Billy Hamill, the tape actually did the same thing and lifted him completely off the bike and really upset him in that meeting. So we're fortunate that that's not happened tonight.
Well, nobody has yet been decapitated. This is Heat 19. The starting marshal moves away. This time we hope the tape goes up properly, and it does. Away from the inside goes Chris Louis, but coming across is Craige Hancock, showing determination. Louis in pursuit. So too is Loram. Loram is there now in second place. Louis is sadly at the back. He's lost ground there, but down this straight goes Craige Hancock. Back in second place, Mark Loram. Third is Henrik Gustafsson. This is going to ensure Craige Hancock surely have a place in that A final, and the chance of repeating his success last year. But now, trying to get in the action. At the back we see Chris Louis, but Mark Loram has moved into second place now and looks as if he can hold that. 2 points will be valuable for Mark. That will take him on to 9. He'll certainly make the B final for that. with a lap to go. The man out front, Craige Hancock, now looks set to place in the A final and a chance of retaining his London Grand Prix title. Round the back straight, he's going to win this one. Craige Hancock in yellow is going to take the checkered flag. Mark Loram moves into second place. Back in third is Henrik Gustafsson, who probably has some work to do. But Craige Hancock is going to be a happy man with that victory. It might have come late for him. It takes him on to 11 points. Looks as if it will earn him a place, but the start was valuable.
Yeah, Hancock on the outside. Again, that yellow position really makes a good one. But Gustafsson there, the Swede, he's mixing it there with the two English lads. Mark Loram's out in front there, but you can see Mark Loram lifts as he goes by Chris Louis. Chris Louis now pushed back to the back because Henka Gustafsson pushes him wide. Louis really got a bad run now. He's pushed out very wide. He's locking up, going sideways. But look at Gustafsson here. He's really all over the back of Loram. Loram gets pushed. He puts his head down. He twists that throttle on, really chases off. But Gustafsson's still chasing him, and he pursued him for the whole race. You can see that start again. You see Loram lifts slightly there. Louis makes a better start on the inside. But unfortunately, Hancock stops Louis' run round the inside. Louis gets chopped a little bit. He's going to meet him in a sandwich. And Loram gets really close to that inside. There's a little bit of dirt down there, and he sneaks by on the inside of Chris Louis, and Louis really gets a wobble there as he takes evasive action as Gustafsson goes past.
Well, we can hear now from Mark Loram, the man who earned second place there. He's down in the pits talking with Julian Ryder.
Mark Loram, 9 points, enough for the B final, do you think?
Yeah, I should think so. We've got to go and have a look now, but I could have done with a few more, but 9 points, you know, it's not so bad.
It's going to help you keep your place in the Grand Prix series, though, isn't it, this?
That's right, yeah, I knew what I've got to do, and I've got it all to do, and sort of like I could have done with 12 points really in the A final, but if I'm in the B final, I've just got to give it a go.
We'll enjoy watching you.
Thanks a lot.
Well, we can see the action there again. The man back there, disappointment for Henrik Gustafsson in white. It means that he's certainly going to miss out on that A final. And I get the impression, Peter Collins, that Henrik Gustafsson is the unlucky man in the Grand Prix series.
Yeah, I think he seems such a nice guy, really. I don't really think he's hard enough. He seems to have a lot of bad luck with machinery. He seems to have stopped in nearly each one of the Grand Prix. And when it really comes down to the crunch, he always seems to get the rough end of the deal.
Well, looking at this, we've got to work out who's likely to make the A final. Hans Nielsen is already there. Peter Carlson there in the red helmet colours. He looks certain to make that A final. Craige Hancock is there as well, it seems. And we are going to have, I think, 2 Americans and a Dane and a Swede in this final, but we'll have to see. The riders lining up for heat number 20. Realistically, only Carlson here has a chance of making that A final. And for my money, he needs just a third place to be sure, Peter. A nice position to be in.
Yes, it is. He's rode consistently well. Apart from that one hiccup we had, I mean, he's really gone well tonight. And he's really shown his liking to this track. Like I said, it's very similar to Wolverhampton, where he's ridden for most of his British career. And he really proves that he likes these tight corners, and he's really, really enjoying it tonight. And I think he's going to get in that A final by the way he's been going.
He looks calm, cool, and certainly collected at the tapes there. There's Peter Carlson in red. He's had a great night so far. He broke the track record in his first ride, that in heat number 2. Crump is in gate 2. That's Jason Crump, the youngster who rides for Peterborough. Bradford's Andy Smith, 3 times a British champion. He's in gate 3. And Joe Screen, well, if Joe Screen were to win this one, he'd get a place in the B final, get him a chance to progress up the standings a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's about time we sort of spoke up for the English lads. I mean, I'd really like to see him do that because, you know, it's really what we need, especially in front of our home fans here in London.
Well, we've got the helmet camera this time is aboard Jason Crump, so maybe that won't bring him the best of luck. We'll have to see which way it's facing. He's going from gate number 2. On the inside, the very fast Peter Carlson. Man in white there is Andy Smith, just out of camera. Yellow and black is Joe Screen. And there could be problems here because up go the tapes. And the tapes were certainly touched by Carlson there. And the referee has excluded Peter Carlson, which really does put the cat among the pigeons here. Peter Carlson is excluded, which means he finishes on 9 points. he could still make that A final. But what a disappointment for the man that's ridden so well. And I certainly believe that he did strike the tapes there with Peter.
Yeah, we can see that there. He dropped the clutch too soon. He tried to anticipate it, and he dropped that clutch. He jumped, he tried to stop, but it was too late. He was in that tape, and that was the end. He's out.
Well, let's see what the lads think down in the studio about that one.
Well, I've never seen so many mathematicians in my life. I'm John, Barry Briggs, Gary Havelock and Kelvin Tatum have all had their notes out, and that was the very scenario that we talked about and were surmising about, and there it is, Peter Carlson and out of this, Gary Havelock. That has made it sensational for the A final.
Yeah, it's pressure, that's all that is. He knows he needs to cut the points to get in the A final, and he's tried to go for a flyer, and he's not pulled it off.
Still doesn't help Mark Loram, though, by our calculations.
No, it'll be interesting to see exactly how that works out. I can't understand why he did that. He must be feeling good. He's been riding brilliantly all night, broken the track record. Just wasn't patient at the start there, a bit of pressure, and it got to him.
Barry Briggs, you've been in more world finals than anybody else here, I think. What do you make of that?
Yeah, he wanted to win the race, obviously, but the starting marshal hadn't done his job properly. I feel that Carlson was quite a way back from the tape. The starting marshal shouldn't leave until they're up to the tapes, and he tried to get a flyer. He would have been a hero if he got away with it. But
he'd have been a hero if he got away with it. They say that about us, Barry, as well. There is Peter Carlson. Then Carlson doesn't look happy at all. We can go back to our commentators now.
Well, this is now the anticlimax of heat number 20, and looking at my notes, I think Peter Carlson still could make that A final after all, but this is heat 20, and out front now is Jason Crump in the blue helmet colours there, and Jason Crump storming down the back straight now knows that he has a chance to make the A final, and if he does win this, Jason Crump will get to 10 points, and he could make his first ever A final for the World Under-21 champion from last year. There is Jason Crump. Now with 2 laps to go, Jason Crump is really flying. He's growing in confidence, this Jason Crump, ahead of Joe Screen back in second place and Andy Smith in third. And we never thought this would happen, Peter.
No, well, we lost Carlson there, so of course Jason Crump's taken over, but this is going to be good for Joe Screen and Andy Smith because it's going to lift them up in the standings, which is certainly what they really desperately need at this stage.
Well, Jason Crump showing the style and the flair and the panache that all the fans from Peterborough want to see as he takes that checkered flag ahead of, in second place, Joe Screen in yellow. Back in third place is Andy Smith. Valuable points for the Brits. I'm sure that Jason Crump is absolutely delighted with that. It was a short result, it was a short conclusion, and he certainly deserved it from the tapes.
Yeah, Jason really made a nice start, didn't he, there? He's got the camera on board. He really dropped that clutch first. I mean, he was on the inside there. He'd got the shortest run to the corner, but you can see Andy Smith there having to go around the outside. But suddenly Joe Screen made a nice turn and dived up the inside there of Andy to take second place, and that's how they stayed for the whole race. But Jason Crump really rode a nice race and never really put a foot wrong, and he got the English lads really all over him.
Well, certainly the English lads did well there, and the effort of Joe Screen, for my money, could just about possibly earn him a place, maybe even in the B final. We'll have to wait for the final countdown. Shocks have followed us all the way to heat 20 in this marvellous Speedway meeting. The mathematicians are working away behind us to calculate the points and decide exactly who will make that valuable A final. The minor placings will count as well. The track is being graded. Most of the people are going to have a rest, and all of us will be looking forward to what promises to be a valuable A final. That will be the last race of the night, and now we can join the lads down in the studio.
Thank you, Tony Millard. And as you can see from our picture here, we've still got everybody working and calculating. And Barry Briggs, he's trying to bury himself under confetti here and work out exactly who's gone through to the A final. But drama there all the way through. Jason Crump, I think, Kelvin Tatum, when we were discussing the odds earlier on in the evening, we could have got 20 to 1 on Jason Crump, and neither you or I put any money on him.
Terrible. Yeah, I think there were good odds actually, but Jason's come through very well.
Well, we can hear what Jason thinks to his 20 to 1 right now, because Julian Ryder has managed to collar him after that superb ride. Julian, it's over to you. Did you put any money on him, Julian?
Thanks, Keith. No, I didn't. I wish I had. Jason, you were 20 to 1 with the bookies for this meeting. Did you put anything on yourself?
No, I wish I had him. My #1 sponsor, Jim from Central Engineering, put some money on me, and Jim, if I win this damn thing, we're going to split it tonight.
Has it been good having your dad here? You seem much more relaxed.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, he got here yesterday morning along with one of my sponsors from Australia, and
it's just been good having him here, and you know, I haven't been got so wound up for this one, and I love Hackney, I love the place, and it's an hour and a half from home, and you know, I just love it.
Been wonderful watching it tonight, and good luck in the A final.
Thank you.
No surprise to me there that Julian Ryder didn't put any money on anything anyway, but there are the graders cleaning the track up for the last 4 races of the night. The D, C, B and A finals, maximum points in the A finals. Again, no British riders in that A final, but Mark Loram was the man who missed it by just, in my calculations, and you can never rely on them, just 1 point. The track now, Barry Briggs, good condition for the finals?
Yeah, a little bit of track preparation is going to make a big difference. It's where the gate's positioned. It's going to be interesting to see what gate Hands takes, because Kelvin, being a Hackney rider, said that he thought the outside got better as the night went on. It had a period of time it did that, but now it seems though the inside's gone back. But Kelvin's a track expert here. I wouldn't like to argue with Kelvin on the gate position, but I think it's going to make a big difference in the final, Kelvin.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, we can tell you now who's in which final, because Tony Millard has made all the calculations. On your head be it if you've got it wrong, Tony.
Well, if I've got it wrong, so has the referee, because we're right next to the referee's box. The A final will comprise Hans Nielsen, Greg Hancock, Jason Crump and Billy Hamill. Hans Nielsen will have choice of gate ahead of Greg Hancock, Jason Crump and Billy Hamill in that order. The B final will be Thomas Golob, Peter Carlson, Mark Loram and Henrik Gustafsson. The C final will be Joe Screen, Sam Ermolenko, Tony Rickardson and Chris Louis. And the D final will be Andy Smith, Craige Boyce, sadly Tommy Knudsen on probably his Grand Prix swan song, along with the Australian Leigh Adams. A major topic for conversation, I'm sure, Keith Hewin.
Thank you, Tony. Well, we'll confirm those positions after the break. We're going to take that short break now. Remember, the next final you're going to see is the D final. It's all still to happen here at Hackney just yet.
Watching Sky Sports 2. The power of money can electrify.
You're almost touching.
Hypnotize.
It can be very dangerous to be around those people when you don't have their kind of money.
Terrify. Spun from dark secrets, lies, and loyalties.
It was murder. It was an accident.
The provocative miniseries.
You are part of us, you know that.
A Season in Purgatory. Wednesday at 9 on Sky 2.
Crime without consequence. The privilege of the very, very rich.
Super Trinitron wide. Be careful what you watch.
For car glass, automatically think auto glass.
Now I ask you, who'd want to miss all this? If you haven't joined BT's Friends and Family scheme, then you're going to miss out on BT's fantastic offer of between 10 and 30% off British Airways flights. So hurry. If you're not a Friends and Family member, call BT, join now, it's free, and they'll send you a voucher. The number is 0800 05 55 55. What are you waiting for? There's a drink in here somewhere.
A soft drink is not a magic potion, a status symbol, or a badge that says who I am. It will not make me popular.
Wanna hang?
It will not make me run faster or jump higher. It will not make me more attractive to the opposite sex, though I wish it would.
You're beautiful.
If I need a badge, I'll become a security guard.
Welcome to the force,
If I need a
son.
refreshing drink, I'll obey my thirst. Image is nothing, thirst is everything. Sprite.
You pay £1 for a lottery instant, but you get 7 instant cash extra scratch cards free with tomorrow's mail on Sunday. Now with bags of extra money and extra ways to win.
Right, us working hard when you are working hard, but when you're working hard.
so's the right guard. When you're working harder, right guard's working harder. But when you work much harder, woo, so does the right guard. When you're working harder, right guard's working harder. But when you work much harder, woo, so does the right guard.
You can't work as hard as new right guard with body heat reactive microcapsules.
Why didn't you tell me you were inviting them?
I wanted to surprise you.
Surprise me then!
I eat Aunt the pasta twice just because she is so nice, Angelina. Angelina, waitress at the pizzeria.
When you walk through the global village, make sure you carry a global currency. Over 200 million people in over 200 countries speak MasterCard.
Pizza delivery!
Back up.
Every language speaks MasterCard.
Welcome back. The climax of tonight's British Speedway Grand Prix is still to come. D final is coming up next. Let's confirm then whereabouts we are, who's in which final. This is how they look. Hans Nielsen then, Greg Hancock, Jason Crump and Billy Hamill all have gone through into the A final. That is going to be one great battle. If Jason Crump can pull that one out of the bag, 20-1 was the odds on the way in. None of us here, and we're supposed to know, have had money on Crump, but at least his team sponsor has. On the second, in other words, in the B final, is Golob, Carlson, Gustafsson and Mark Loram. Can Loram make those 8 points score? Can Mark Loram grab a win in the B final? We'll have to wait and see. In the C final, Joe Screen, he could well win that one. Ermo, well, you never know with Southern Sam. Tony Rickardson looking a shadow of his former self lately, and Chris Louis, another man that could come up with the goodies right at the end. And the D final is Andy Smith, Craige Boyce, and that man is fired up after his exclusion in one of the heats. It cost him dearly. Tommy Knudsen is in the D final as well. And Leigh Adams, well, Leigh Adams right off the pace, but could steal some points if he manages to put it together in that D final. Well, it's been a hell of a night, really, hasn't it, for swapping of points as this evening's gone on. But at the end of the day, in the A final, we've got all the men we would have expected in there, haven't we, Gary?
Almost, yeah. There's a couple that's probably maybe not there that you thought might, but it's been such a strange meeting, you know. Hans has top scored on 12, you know, that doesn't happen very often.
What'd you put that down to?
I don't know, really. I suppose, you know, it's very important to gate on this track, and you know, if you miss a couple of gates, you obviously lose points. Well,
the D final's lining up now. Of course, the gate all important. Who do you fancy in this one, Kel?
Well, I think probably Craige Boyce, actually. I'd like to see Andy win it, to be honest, but I think Craig will be fired up after his exclusion and probably take a bit of his aggression out by winning the D final.
OK, well, we'll see what Craige Boyce has to do in this one. The D final win will be the least he'll expect from tonight. It's back to Peter Collins and Tony Millard.
Well, the D final provides excitement, but an anticlimax for many of these guys. Andy Smith is on the inside, wearing the red helmet colours. That is Hans Nielsen, of course, watching the action. He'll have choice of helmet colours in the A final, so he wants to see where he should be going from. Gate 2 is Craige Boyce. Gate 3 is Tommy Knudsen. On the outside is Leigh Adams. That is the lineup. This is the D final. They race for places 13 to 16. It's almost a sandwich. Smith gets caught up in it. Pulling through is Craige Boyce to take the lead. Ahead of in second place in the yellow helmet colours, but now flying off is Tommy Knudsen. Could we be seeing the end of a marvellous Speedway career? Because there in the white helmet colours is the legendary Dane who's won 3 Grand Prix, and now he's finished up tumbling on the same bend as he did in Lanigo in Italy. And Tommy Knudsen there is in considerable pain. We have men who've endured accidents in our studio in Speedway. Tommy Knudsen now is suffering his 3rd serious accident in Grand Prix racing. He crashed in Wroclaw last year, he crashed in Lanigo this year, and he crashed here at Hackney tonight. Is that goodbye, Tommy Knudsen?
Well, Tony Millard, I hope not. From my own personal point of view, he's a great man that's down again. I'm sure he's not hurt in that accident. He didn't look like he connected with anything, even though he's still down on the ground. Talk us through this one now, Kelvin, if you would, please.
Well, he's just getting squeezed up against the fence there. They're all arriving at the same time. His left foot's about to get flicked back violently there. And, of course, when that happens, you lose balance and lose control. He hasn't gone down too hard, but he's not very strong on his shoulder, and I don't know whether that little impact there would have made it hurt or not. He's all right, I think.
It's a disaster, though, for Tommy Knudsen, because he is a great rider. We've seen him in last year's Grand Prix Series and this. I mean, he basically is an A-final winner whenever he can just put it together, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. You know, he's top class and his equipment's always fantastic, and he's always in there in there with a chance to win a Grand Prix, not to make the numbers up at all. So this sort of bad luck that he's had this year is obviously must be awful for him, because
Gary, you'll be aware. In fact, you know what that feels like quite well, don't you?
I know exactly what that feels like. Yeah, you know, Tommy's obviously had it rough this year. He's broke his collarbone in Italy, which is normally the simplest injury a speed rider can have. You know, you're out for 2 weeks, then you're back. But he's had an operation for some reason. It's gone wrong, and he's ended up being out for 3 months. So it's very unlucky.
Barry, do you think he'll retire? Do you think it's you know, that's it?
I think it all depends on the points tonight. If he doesn't have to go in the chase meeting and he's in the Grand Prix, I think the winter away from it, he'll be ready to go again. But if he's got to do the meeting to qualify, which he's right on the edge of, I think, you know, he might make a decision on the strength of that.
Tommy Knudsen it is then that goes out of the D final unceremoniously. He's regained his composure on the walk back to the pits. Thankfully he is absolutely okay, but the man's still feeling very sore and battered as he goes back to take an early shower. Tommy Knudsen now out of Hackney. Well, at least he'll be able to make it out of here without getting caught in the traffic. Let's go back to our commentators then, Peter Collins and Tony Millard.
Well, here we've got a couple of Australians now and an Englishman in Andy Smith on the inside in red. Craige Boyce in blue goes from gate 2. Leigh Adams on the outside in yellow and black. Really, this is only minor placings, and all of these riders are low down in the Grand Prix standings. Adams currently lies 14th. Boyce currently lies 15th. Andy Smith currently lies 16th. The last two in this race could well be in contention for reserve places when they go to Boyens. So we'll just have to see what happens, because this is important. To win this heat ensures that you ride at Boyens. This is heat 21, the D final. Away they go from the inside, and to the apex of the bend is Craige Boyce. Boyce takes his man wide. That is Leigh Adams going wide, but now coming through is Andy Smith. We need Andy Smith to win this. Bucks and rears, and now Andy Smith is down. They're tumbling thick and fast. He gets up. He knows that 1 point will help him. He will get 15th place in tonight's Grand Prix just for finishing in this one. But he's half a lap behind a pair that's led by Craige Boyce. The two Australians, Boyce and Adams, now have 2 laps to go. Boyce, the man in the blue helmet colours, Adams, the man following him in yellow, and way back, sadly now, is Andy Smith. But this is going to be won surely by one of the two Australians. They're just trotting around now. Boyce knows that if he wins this, he won't have to endure the place at reserve. I think if Adams comes in second, he too could well hold the place, but there they go, taking it. Craige Boyce wins it in blue ahead of Leigh Adams in second place. And now Andy Smith just about makes it across the line. Real disappointment for the Brit, but Craige Boyce is fairly happy with that. He could hardly have done better, but it wasn't a great speedway race.
Yeah, see Andy Smith really squeezing there. He squeezed the two Australians, but when he gets to this top corner, he's got too tight of a turn to make, as Craige Boyce has pinned him down to the inside, and Andy gets an absolute tremendous amount of grip there, does well to hang on to it, but he suddenly loses it. The back end goes away from him, and down he goes. Fortunately, he's managed to hold on to the handlebars and keep the bike going and ride round for that third place.
Well, from the start, it was a fairly straightforward race with only 3 men in. Craige Boyce held it all the way. Leigh Adams went round the outside, as Peter said, and from then on, well, Andy Smith may have come off, but at that point, it looked as if he wasn't going to be in the race. He then came through well, and all went wrong after that. The heat won then by Craige Boyce to make sure that he qualifies to ride in Boyens. Sadly, crashing out for Andy Smith, and Andy Smith, who was 16th before tonight, finishes 15th tonight and will only be reserved at Boyens. We're now coming up to heat number 22. We know that Joe Screen is in blue as they sort out the places here for this, the C final. Down in front of us, Tony Ricardson is in yellow. In red on the inside, it seems, is Sam Ermolenko. And Chris Louis is in white. So we've worked that one out. They draw for positions here. Highest scorer gets it first. And that's how it's worked out for the C final. Sam Ermolenko goes for the inside gate. Joe Screen in blue goes from gate number 2. Gate 3 is occupied by Chris Louis in white and Tony Ricardson on the outside. Ricardson will be desperate to win this. He currently lies 3rd in the Grand Prix standings. He could drop a bit further behind after this tonight, but he does have a 12-point lead over Henrik Gustafsson, the 4th place man, and he may just hold that. Ricardson, 68 Grand Prix points on the outside. Louis, 39, gate 3. Joe Screen, 23, gate 2. Sam Ermolenko, 27, goes from gate number 1. Starting marshal sorted them out once again. This the C final. Where they go from the inside. Ermolenko keeps it down. Ermolenko gets to the bend first. Coming around fast is Chris Louis. Louis picks it up down the outside. Screen rears, allows Ermolenko to go through. Somewhat hinders Louis, but Screen is in 2nd place. Louis is in 3rd, but Ermolenko coming good, having done well in the Grand Prix in Linköping in Sweden, is now carrying all before him, even though this is the C final here at Hackney. That is Sam Ermolenko going wide in red, ahead of the 2 Brits. They have a bit to do. The minor placings are counting, but the money counts too, as Sam Ermolenko goes down the back straight, and the wily old fox is producing the goods here.
Yes, he is. He's come good in this final, that's for sure, but Chris Louis and Joe Screen are really doing well here to get this, to stay ahead of Tony Ricardson, but Ermolenko really looks to have this one sewn up now, although Louis stopped.
Louis has stopped on the last lap, and sadly he's not going to finish, but it's won by Sam Ermolenko. In 2nd place is Joe Screen. Tony Ricardson is 3rd. That valuable point for Tony Ricardson will count, but Louis retard, he trickles into the pits. Sudden Sam is delighted. He did it from gate 1 into that first bend. There was almost a shake-up as they came round, but Chris Louis in the end missed out.
Yeah, Ermolenko made a nice start there, but Louis trying to go around the outside in that dirt. He almost seems to make it at this point. You think he's gone by, but Joe Screen comes on the inside with an absolute terrific wheelie there. Pushes Chris Louis into the fence there from Ermolenko, but by this time Ermolenko seems to have sorted himself out. Louis gone too wide, Screen's trying up the inside, but really Ermolenko's now got this one sewn up.
Well, Ermolenko did it from the tapes, and that means that he takes 9th place in this London Grand Prix, with Joe Screen in 10th, Tony Ricardson 11th, and the unfortunate Chris Louis now 12th. That's how they sort out positions 9 to 12 as a result of that, the C final in Heat 22. We can now talk down in the pits with Joe Screen, who's talking with Julian Ryder.
Joe, 2nd place in the C final. You really must have hoped for better tonight.
Yeah, I just balls one race up really when I nearly touched the tapes, and I rolled back and the tapes went. You know, I had a good race and I made a decent start, and then I just lifted coming off the bend, but you know, I'd throw it as hard as I could.
It's been one of those odd nights, hasn't it, where everybody's taken points off everybody else. Every point's been crucial.
Yeah, the track's so difficult, you know, you've got to make good starts, so it's difficult to pass, and you know, I haven't really enjoyed myself that much.
A final in Denmark.
You don't know, do you?
We do.
Well, Joe Screen always seems to have a smile on his face, if disappointed. The crowd here are doing their mathematics. They don't know yet who's going to have choice of gate in Heat 23. All of us will find out by the public declaration in the A final who takes what. We wait for the riders to come out here in the B final. Peter Carlson, Thomas Golob, Mark Loram and Henrik Gustafsson. And there we can see in the yellow helmet colours, we certainly know that Mark Loram is going to wear yellow because he's come out there wearing exactly that, and that means he will go from the outside. Thomas Golob, it seems, is going to wear the white helmet colours, going from gate number 3. And then we start sorting out the mathematics. because we can see, I think that's Henrik Gustafsson who's in blue, going from gate number 2. And that leaves Peter Carlson to go for the inside, where he broke the tapes last time out. Can lightning strike twice in the same place, Peter Collins?
Well, let's hope that he's a bit more composed this time. He was rather eager last time. We'll see if he can just go when the tapes go up this time. He needs to make a good start.
Well, certainly I'm sure Peter Carlson will be very disappointed at not making the A final. Remember, he did make the A final back in Sweden when he came second in that meeting, and behind the ultimate winner, Billy Hamill. But here, the best he can hope for is 5th in this Grand Prix, and that's providing he wins this B final. Carlson on the inside, Gustafsson gate 2. The controversial pole, Thomas Golob goes from gate 3. Mark Loram's on the outside. The Brit, who has hopes, let's hope he can produce the goods here. Starting Martin moves away. The riders look across. Mark's over the tape. And Golob to the fore once again. The last part of this meeting has seen Thomas Golob, the pole, in flying style. Mark Loram's right at the back, sadly for the Brits. In second place is Peter Carlson. Back in third is Henrik Gustafsson. But Thomas Golob continues to climb the Grand Prix standings. He was 9th before tonight's meeting. This could certainly take him into the top 8. He's already qualified for next year by winning the Continental Final. He has time to look back here as Thomas Golob round the top bend ahead of Peter Carlson, who must be desperately disappointed at missing out in his final race, which saw him, he only needed a 3rd place to qualify for the A final, but now he's in the B final, where he's surely going to finish 2nd. Golob, though, is very, very fast.
Yes, he is, and he's riding very wide. We've seen this before from Golob. He really likes to ride the wide line. He likes the bigger track, so that's probably what he's doing. He's making the arcs much wider, following that fence, but he takes that win there. What a good ride from him.
Well nigh perfect. Thomas Golob in white winning that one, ahead of in 2nd place in red Peter Carlson. 3rd in yellow and black in the end was Mark Loram. Disappointment for Henrik Gustafsson. That sorts out the minor placings, and now we can look forward to the A final. But Golob finishes 5th on the night.
From the start here, you can see Golob in the white helmet. Already he's a complete bike length up. He's turned sideways before the others have even got to the corner. Now he's running out towards that dirt. You can see Gustafsson there in the picture. Gustafsson's got no answer here to Golob. Golob's won all his races in the second half of this meeting, and you can see why he looks so quick at this stage. Well, you see Mark Loram there getting all sorts of knots trying to catch Golob, but he's got no answer to the way Golob's riding.
The A final then coming up in just a few moments. We're going to take another short break. Can Crump do it in the A final and pull off the biggest shock here at Hackney tonight?
Memories of Euro 96, and England are back.
It's about pride.
And it's about England under Glenn Hoddle and the challenge ahead.
It's about the World Cup.
And England are ready.
And a turn! Sheringham's header! Stone! Great goal for England!
It's about scoring goals.
And Sky Sports coverage of England's opening qualifiers.
It's about being there.
Moldova v England in Ford International Football, Sunday at 3 live on Sky Sports 1.
It's about football.
What's this? See if it doesn't ring a bell. Grown-up child rings home.
Hi, it's me.
Hello, love. I'll get your mother. It's like the old man's an answering service. But it needn't be like that. Hello, love. I'll just get your mother.
Oh, hang on, Dad. Well, can't we have a chat first?
Is anything the matter?
No, I just forgotten what you sound like.
Very funny. So how's the course going? Remember, answering the phone is not the same as talking on the phone. Did you? So, Dad, before you hand over to Mum, say something. Brilliant. And kids, talk to your father, right?
Boyfriend?
It's good to talk.
You rejoin us live here at the London Stadium And we're going to see in just a few moments the top 4 men picking their grid positions, or rather Hans Nielsen. He's going to be getting the pole position as soon as he takes it. Which one do you think he's going to go for, Kelvin? We've been talking about this all night long.
Yeah.
The outside gate looks quickest, but Hans Nielsen notoriously goes for the inside one.
I think you're right, Keith. I think he's going to go for the inside. Hans always feels confident there. He feels like he's got everybody. He feels he can control the first corner from the inside, and normally 9 times out of 10 he'll go for the outside.
Gary, he doesn't need to gamble either, does he? I've seen you checking the form out. You're going to make a bookie in your old age, you know that?
Something like that, yeah. No, I think you could get a lot of money on Hans taking one. You know, I feel sure he'll take one, and it looks to me like Greg's got second pick, and I think he'll probably take 4 because he won it off 4 last year.
And what about young Jason, Barry? I mean, he could really put the cat amongst the pigeons with this, couldn't he? If he manages to pull off a final win here at Hackney. He looks very confident. We've got everybody, all his family here as well, checking it out. There's the men then, the 4 men that must now pick their positions. And it's Hans Nielsen who gets first choice. And I think we'll be in for a major surprise if he doesn't pick that inside gate. That's my view anyway. Gary, what's going through his mind now as he comes to the line here? I mean, have you any insight into what goes on in Hans Nielsen's head?
Not at all, really, no, but I think what will be going on, especially after his performance in Sweden, where he didn't do so well, people didn't expect him to do very well here, and he's come out and he's top scored, he's got first pick, so I think he'll be laughing all the way, really. Billy
Hamill, Kelvin?
I think Billy's probably feeling that he's had a little bit of a reprieve. Sorry.
It's okay, I do it all the time.
Yeah, he didn't really feel like he was going to make the A final, but now he's in it. He's the type of bloke that's not. He's going to try and take his chance.
Well, he's a tough competitor. We've seen him a couple of times tonight. I mean, he's certainly not letting anyone put one over him, is he? So Hamill should be interesting as well. Well, we wait to see here which gate Hans Nielsen, and I think he's looking for that red. Surely it's going to be this one. He's down deep. I mean, he's deep mining at the moment, isn't he, Hans? Looking for the grip there.
I think he knows what he's going to take.
Yeah,
he's just trying to
that's it, yeah.
Play the field along.
So there it is then. Hans Nielsen confirms that he's going to take the inside red helmet colour gate. And now we see where we are going with the remaining 3 riders. Yeah, Hancock now taking a long look. Gary, where do you reckon he'll take second here?
I think he might take 4, you know. I mean, most of the races have been 1 off 1 and 4 tonight. You know, he always liked to be either on the inside or the outside.
Yeah. Looks like you're right. Yep, he's taking the outside. So, Greg Hancock then goes with the yellow helmet colour and the outside. This is going to be interesting when we get to turn 1.
Jason's turn now.
So, Jason Crump next up. He has the choice of a bad 2, really, Kel.
Yeah, I think he'd be wise to go for 2. 3's notoriously the worst start place here, and I think in this sort of race he's better off staying on the inside. That's a safer bet.
Barry, a man of much experience.
As what I wrote down, Keith, I think I agree with the boys. I think that young Crumpy will take 2.
So there it is, yeah, Crumpy's taken 2. So Jason Crump takes 2 then, and that leaves, of course...
Billy doesn't have to think.
I think that's it.
Billy out there without a decision to have to be made.
At the end of the day, he's just got left with what he's got left with, and he's got to make the best of it like Hans did in Italy. And,
in Italy.
You know, Billy's the type of rider who can quite possibly do that, you know. He's fired up and he wants to be world champion.
OK then, well, we fairly well predicted the gate, which I think is the easy part of the job. This is where I don't get involved anymore. Prediction time. Kelvin first up. Give us a prediction for the top 3. We're going to go for the full 3 here.
I think it'll be Nielsen, Hancock, Crump.
Nielsen, Hancock, Crump is Kelvin's choice. Gary?
I think it'll be Nielsen, Crump, Hamill.
Nielsen, Crump and Hamill, and Barry, who has been working this out all night long.
Yeah. It's only because I don't remember. I would think Hamill, Nielsen, Hancock.
Great call, and I would go with that as well, Barry. I've got to say, I'm not quite as old as you, but I'm older than the other 2 in here, so I'll go with that as well. And there is Tommy Knudsen. He's, well, unfortunately just got to watch what goes on here. So Nielsen then kits himself up with the red helmet colour. He's going to go off the inside of the grid here, and we can go back to the superb commentary of Peter Collins and, of course, Tony Millard.
Well, it's going to take a little while before they get away because they do a lap of honour before this starts from their machines normally, or what we've seen at the other Grand Prix. The tapes are not down, so you can see they can do that. And I think Peter Collins alongside me, who's won a world final, of course, himself, although it was 20 years ago this very month, I think, Peter. Are the nerves jangling just a little bit now?
What, my nerves, Tony? Yeah, I think mine are going as well, really. I know what it feels like. Hans Nielsen there now, he realised he's got a reprieve, he's got that world title now within his grasp, and I'm sure that Hans is probably not going to make any mistakes here, but Greg Hancock on the outside is definitely his biggest threat, I would think. Gate 4 is a good one, actually, at this stage during the meeting, and Greg could be the surprise, especially with him winning last year, but Hans Nielsen, I would put my money on him.
Well, whichever way it goes, according to my calculations, Nielsen and Hamill will be 1 and 2 in the Grand Prix as we go to Voyens. It'll be all on Denmark, and I'd like to ask the lads in the studio, if it goes to Denmark, how big an advantage would it be to Hans Nielsen?
Tony Miller. Well, of course, it depends if Hamill has managed to beat him here, I think, Kel.
Certainly, but I think that Voyens is Hans' own backyard. He's won millions of races around there, open meetings, world championships. I think it definitely favours him for that point.
Time for a bit of complacency, though, perhaps from Nielsen?
I think this race probably could well settle the world championship. You know, I think if Hans wins there and Billy's second, that'll be 12 points lead he's got, and I don't think anyone's going to pull that back on him. But
we've seen an upset in Sweden recently, Barry, so maybe it might not, it still could not go Nielsen's way.
I think Hans can only lose it. Billy's not going to win it. Hans has got to lose it.
There it is then. We have got it now. It is coming to you, the A final then from the Hackney London Stadium. It's over to our commentators.
Well, we can tell you, of course, that if Hamill were to come last and Nielsen to win it, the gap would be almost insurmountable were it get to that at Voyens. So it needs to be a different way round. Hans Nielsen on the inside. The surprise package, Jason Crump is next to him. In the blue helmet colours from Peterborough. In white, it's Billy Hamill. On the outside, it's Greg Hancock. 2 Americans, an Australian and a Dane. And there is Crumps at the front. But Nielsen comes through. Pursued. They lock up. Crump it is. Now on the inside. Hamill picks it up. Hamill goes round. Crump is in front. Jason Crump from Australia and Peterborough. With his father and grandfather watching this. He's out front. He's leading the World Under-21 champion last year, Jason Crump, in the blue helmet colours, with 2 laps to go, has the Grand Prix at his beckoning. Hans Nielsen's in second place. What can Billy Hamill do? He's at the back. He can do nothing. Nielsen is shutting out Greg Hancock. Hancock's going to try again. Nielsen goes wide, but nobody's going to catch Jason Crump out front. As Crump picks it up, he has half a lap to go before he's waving at the crowd. He's going to take the Grand Prix title. The battle is joined at the back. But Hans Nielsen's going to take second place. But look at that man. Jason Crump takes that in first place. In second place is Hans Nielsen. Back in third place is Billy Hamill, who I think was probably let through by Greg Hancock there to help him build up the points. But what a night for that man from Mildura in Australia. He was born in Bristol, so the Brits can take some credit. That is Jason Crump with the wheelie. The 21-year-old has enjoyed that one. A proud dad who finished third to Peter Collins in the 76 World Final is watching as well. But the name of Crump, Peterborough, Australia, born in Bristol, is the hero of the night here at the Hackney Stadium in East London. Peter Collins, he looks and feels great.
Oh, absolutely brilliant there. He was unbelievable. Nobody had the money on him at all, and he sneaked that one there in. The way he went past Hans Nielsen. Hans must have really thought he got it sewn up at one stage, but there Crump just went down the outside, straight by him, and also Billy Hamill at the same time, and Hans was really floundering there, but absolutely great that for Jason. And there's his dad. Must feel very, very proud of him. We can see the start here now. Crump there lifting the blue helmet. Nielsen's got it sewn up, or probably thinks he does, but Crump runs around the outside. Crump's in that dirt. We know now that the outside is much quicker. Billy Hamill's also in there. Billy tries to get up the inside of Nielsen, but Crump just zooms down the outside in that grip. And Hamill really has a go here at Crump when they get to that corner, but Crump resists that challenge. Hamill was reversing into that corner, but Nielsen dives in again. Nielsen isn't finished at this stage. He dives inside the inside of Hamill, but Crump's gone clear, and Crump takes it absolutely great.
Well, Julian Ryder is, as usual, in pole position alongside a very delighted man.
A place in history, the first Australian to win a Speedway Grand Prix. Life can't get much better.
Oh, tonight's absolutely fantastic. I can't believe it. I mean, at the moment I'm finding it hard to talk. My dad came from Australia and my sponsor, and it's fantastic that they're here, and oh, it's great.
Can we have a bit of the credit because you were born in Bristol?
No, you can't have any.
That's fair enough. But now, what about Denmark? Next one.
Oh, I can't wait now. I haven't had a very good run so far in the GPs, and I don't know where he is at the moment, but I'd like to thank my parents for all the help they've given me in my career, my mechanic Troy and Drew, my engine tuner Peter Johns, and my grandfather, because he's a legend.
It's Australian joy everywhere. It's wonderful. Jason Crump, enjoy the rostrum.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I would hope that we'd see Jason Crump. I've got to say, it's very, very popular, chaps. I mean, Gary, he really did it, didn't he?
Absolutely. You know, he's come from nowhere this meet, and he's been really struggling in the Grand Prix, and he's gone out there and he's produced the goods on the night when it matters, and you know, it's fantastic for him.
There is the victorious Jason Crump, Ollie Olsen, the race director, helping him to the back of the car. I think, do I smell a bit of a celebration going on tonight, Kelvin?
You might do. I actually spoke to Jason before and said he could win here.
Talk through this first, Kelv. Let's
well, I think Hans made a very good start, but he just lifted too hard and allowed Jason just to get there at the entrance to the corner. Now, there's no give here at all. Well, obviously a final, but Jason's got a good run there. He's just got clear, but he does get squeezed. He's a bit fortunate here because Hans creeps round the curve, and for a minute it looks like Hans was out in the way here, but then all of a sudden both of them come back at him and he sort of is a sandwich here down the back straight.
Well, Billy Hamill, I mean, poor Billy Hamill looked like he got it about right at one point.
He charges
sadly...
he charges in a bit hard there, and just he was lucky to stay on the bike, to be quite honest.
Well, certainly after Hans got by him, Hans became the widest Dane I've ever seen in my life.
Well, you know, it's running for the World Championship. He knows what that's all about. There's no way those two young American boys will come in by.
That's as good as a win for Hans, though, really. He's got the person who's closest behind him, Billy, in the World Championship. He's got him behind him in the race, so he's not bothered.
No.
9 points then it will be that, of course, Nielsen now leads this championship by. The Triumph motorcycles going around the track. Well, that's another famous man that owns them, Paul Smart Motorcycles. Let's look after them. Barry, great moment here. Hans Nielsen looks relaxed at last.
Oh, yeah. The pressure's off Hans. There was a question mark, I think a little question mark before the meeting, but Jason's done it. Young and up and coming. We need some new young upcoming stars.
And Billy Hamill's still got a smile on his face despite the evening. He must know, surely it's sunk in already, that his task is a big one.
Absolutely, you know, Billy's just got to go to Voyons now, and he knows he's got to go there and try and win the meeting and hope that Hans falters. That's all he can do.
Well, certainly Jason Crump is the man that pulled it off tonight. Wouldn't have mattered where he ended up on the track. He knew that he wasn't going for a World Championship. He was going for a win in the British Speedway Grand Prix here at Hackney. He got that. His grandfather and his father are here to watch him do it, and he will be a very proud young Australian indeed. And I don't think there's a much more popular win than that, unless Henka Gustafsson did it. Let's take a look at the standings then as we leave Hackney here this evening. This is what the standings look like now. They are the final standings after today's meeting. Crump on 25 points then. Hans Nielsen gets just 20. Well, I suppose it could have been a lot more. 2 points in front of Hamill. So that makes him 9 points in front of the championship. Greg Hancock in 4th. Golov ends up in 5th place with 14 points. Peter Carlson, well, he looked like he could win an A final the way things went. Just look how it changed for him. He ends up in 6th. Mark Loram in 7th and Henka Gustafsson in 8th. Sam Hamill&Hancock then on 9 points. Joe Screen ends the night on 8th, and looking down the list for the Brits, Chris Louis on 6th and Andy Smith on 2. Jason Crump, the man with the biggest smile here. Well, good job he's got a good set of teeth. 3rd place man then, Billy Hamill, goes up onto the London Stadium podium. It's a long way up there. It could have been just a step or two higher, though, for Billy Hamill tonight. He accepts the trophy and the garlands. The next man up, well, the professor himself. We started calling him that here in the Sky Sports studio. I see no reason why to modify that. He goes up onto just the 2nd place podium. Hans Nielsen it is, though. And once again, it looks like the 5th World Speedway title is his after this meeting here in Great Britain. We wait, though, for the man to go to the top of the podium, and this is very popular indeed. Jason Crump it is. As Julian said, the first Australian to take a Grand Prix win. He hits the top. It's a big step, but one I think that Jason Crump, we are certainly going to see more of as the Grand Prix open up over the next few years. Crump it is on top, winning the British Speedway Grand Prix here at the London Stadium in Hackney tonight. Superb conditions, superb races, heats and finals throughout the night. Live coverage here on Sky Sports. It doesn't get much better. And Jason Crump wears the biggest smile I think I've seen on a podium, next to perhaps Billy Hamill. He's the only other man that's had a huge smile. We'll wait for the national anthem and, of course, the champagne. It's the national anthem then for Jason Crump. Jason Crump it is then, the man who took the win here at the London Stadium. We can take a look now, though, at the Grand Prix standings. This is how they will go into Voyens. Hans Nielsen on 97 points from Billy Hamill on 88. It could have been worse, but certainly not much worse. Tony Rickardson, a disastrous night for him. He remains 3rd, but now virtually no chance of a World Championship in 1996. Greg Hancock is in 4th place, Gustafsson in 5th, and Peter Carlson there in 6th place in the series after 5 rounds. One more round left to go, of course, and that is just a little way away. Chris Louis is in 7th place. He remains in 7th place, I should say. Thomas Golub, watch out for him when we get to the final round. Tommy Knudsen, he ends his night in disaster here. Jason Crump there, courtesy of that, is in 10th place. Mark Loram is in 11th place, Crump jumping in front of him, and Sam Emelianenko is in 12th. Joe Screen there in 13th. Gary Havelock, well, he's dropped from 10th to 14th. He's here with us in the studio. And, well, it's a bit of a disaster for Gary, of course, but hopefully he'll be back racing very soon. Leigh Adams, Craige Boyce, Andy Smith, Marvin Cox, Gerd Riss and Stefano Alfonso round off the top 20. Well, you may realise, of course, if you're a cricket fan, that we are overrunning with the Speedway because of the superb scenes we've seen here in Hackney. That'll follow after us, so if you're a cricket fan, hang on in here because it's been great racing for the Speedway. Back in the studio. What's Jason Crump going to do now from this point onwards? Obviously, this is a major high for him. Where's he going to go from here? What's he going to do after this race meeting, do you think?
I was thinking he'd probably have a couple of beers initially, but I think that when he gets home and he calms down, I would think it would give him a lot more self-confidence to be able to perform and win at the highest level.
Nobody knows better than you, though, Gary, that you can't rest on your laurels, can you?
You can't, no. There's a lot of hungry riders out there who want success and they want it in the World Championship events. And
these are the victory spoils, of course, that we now see Jason Crump receiving.
I think he'll be quite happy with that.
Thank you for that, Gary. Have a look.
The trophy, I mean.
Well, while we look at Jason Crump and the world's media accepting the spoils of his win here tonight, we can take a look again at that A final, and of course we're going to get comments from here in the studio as opposed to Peter Collins and Tony Millard. The fireworks are going up behind me here. Let's take a look at that A final. Kelvin, the start.
Well, Jason's made a brilliant start. He's drifted wide in the first corner and it looks like Hans has got it, but then both of them go past Hans on the back straight. Billy almost overcooks it. Actually does very well to stay up.
Yeah, Gary, that was a great save. What a save of the night.
Fantastic save. Billy's a real good motorcyclist and most people would have probably come off there, but he stayed on the bike and he's dragged himself back and managed to get 3rd. But I think, like I said before, Hans is going to be well happy with this. You know, he's increased his lead. He's going to Denmark into Voyens, which is probably one of his best tracks, and he's got it there to win. And
Barry, he's like a human calculator, isn't he, Hans Nielsen? He always manages to get where he should be, at the front of the field.
He's unbelievable. When the pressure's on him, he seems to pull that little bit out. Billy's had his fleeting chance, and this is the Speedway, though, that you don't get a second chance. His chance was there to win tonight, but he hit a bump, just about lost it. Lucky to stay on, and it give Hans the inertia that he needed.
Jason Crump then takes the flag. Superb scenes here at the London Stadium in Hackney. These are live pictures, and the celebrations have already started. Every firework set off by an Australian, no doubt about that. Jason Crump, we are looking forward to coming in studio here. We are getting blitzed. The studio has got fireworks landing on it. We expect to see Jason Crump here in the studio in a few moments. We're trying to get hold of him at the moment. And believe me, this is going to be a great evening, and I think it's only just started for us, gentlemen. Barry Briggs, are you joining us for a bit of celebration here? You're a New Zealander, that's quite close to Australia, isn't it?
We're quite close, yes.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, though, could it, Gary?
No, absolutely, and like Barry said, it's great to see new young faces coming through and winning these things, you know. I mean, it's all right for Hans going out and Tony and winning all the rounds, but it's great to see a young rider coming through and actually winning.
Do you expect more of that as the seasons progress in this Grand Prix series? I mean, this year, if anything, for my money, has been even more exciting than last year. It looked up until tonight as if it was definitely going to go to the wire. There was only 7 points in it for a moment or two. It's settled down a little bit as it is right now. But again, we could get the Voyens with the prospect of it still not turning out to be Hans's way.
Sure, and I think Voyens is notorious for bad weather. You know, I've been there in the middle of the summer, and it's been absolutely dreadful. The weather comes off the North Sea and sweeps across Denmark, and it could be absolutely dreadful. So, you know, there's still a lot to play for. It's you know, the race in Speedway, anything can happen. And like we saw with Peter Carlson tonight, you know, we're all putting our money on him. He's going to win the meeting, and the next minute he's in the tape. So I still think that there's plenty to ride for.
One thing, of course, that we haven't confirmed is that Jason Crump's sponsor actually put money on him at 20 to 1. Money always goes to money, they say.
Well, we best get round him in the bar quick.
I think that's the place to be, obviously, with Jason's sponsor. Barry, where does a youngster go like this now? I mean, what does he look forward to now from this point?
Oh, he's going to look forward to Voyens, isn't he? We see him every week at Peterborough when I'm in the country, and he puts in some sterling performances in the league, and that jump up just seemed too much for him. But all of a sudden he's made the transition, and you know
he's already on the beer
from strength.
Sure.
Yeah,
well,
he's an Australian, isn't he?
Yeah, so I think Champagne Crump, I think we'll be calling him.
Champagne supper as opposed to champagne breakfast.
So Jason Crump it is then that wanders down pit lane, accepting the applause of everybody in the pits. A very popular win. I don't think that there would have been much of a more popular win, except possibly if Henka Gustafsson had managed to do it, because he's been about or Joey Screen, of course. I mean, other than a British rider is what I'm talking about. If it had been a British rider, then we'd have heard the celebration all over London and beyond. But it's Jason Crump, in the end, that took the win. And he's going to congratulate and accept congratulations from anybody, isn't he? Hans Nielsen, the #1 man. He's going up now to the media meeting. Great scenes. Ollie Olsen bringing up the rear, of course. Ollie Olsen, the race director. These are the scenes, still live. What a great night. Do you think we're going to have such a great night, Kelvin, in Voyens for the final round?
I don't see any reason why not. Obviously, it's the World Championship still up for grabs.
What's the track like at Voyens? I mean, are we going to see really good close racing?
Voyens can be absolutely fantastic. Yes. The shape of the track is perfect for Speedway. It's not too big, not too small. It's wide with banking. If it's well prepared, it can be probably one of the best Grand Prix this year. Like I said, it can be a bit tricky with weather there, but if it's well prepared, the racing should be fantastic.
Gary, assuming that the track is well prepared, Hans Nielsen is obviously prepared for it. He goes home to try and win his, 5th World Championship, 3 individual World Championships and 2 Grand Prix World Championships this year. How long is he going to continue for? I don't know. I think he's as old as Barry Briggs before.
I think a lot of the riders are thinking that, but you can't take anything away from him. He does it year after year, and like Kelvin said, you know, it is notorious for rain at Voyens. I don't think I've probably only been there maybe once or twice when it's been dry. It always rains at Voyens, and I think that could have a major part. But having said that, Hans is such a good professional that he's going to know it's going to probably rain at Voyens, and he'll be set up for that.
Barry, we've seen footage from 1929 in our show tonight, Speedway. You've not been there quite as long as all that, but In your experience, I mean, have you ever seen, have you ever witnessed, have you ever been near a man like Hans Nielsen in all the time that you've been around Speedway? Is there anybody that has been anything like Hans as far as his capability of coming up with the calculated ending that you need?
Yeah, there's you know, Ivan Major's very similar to what Hans is. And Hans did a long time that he was going to be world champion, never quite made it. And he took Ivan on board for a couple of years, and they're very similar personalities, you know, and they don't appear to enjoy it. You know, you can't see them like Henka and that. You can see him enjoy riding the bike. Hans is there to win, and Ivan was the same. And I think very similar. And Funden was a little bit the same as well.
Gary, the Grand Prix, they're going greater and greater. We've seen them. We had 6 last year. We got 6 this year. Would you like to see it go, as I think that the race direction wants it to go, to a greater number of countries, to more Grand Prix throughout the year?
It would be nice. It would be nice. They're talking about things like involving Australia and South Africa and America and places like that. I mean, that would be difficult because of the seasons which we ride Speedway in, but I'd like to see it expanded. You know, it's a fantastic thing now. The racing seems to get better and better all the time, and you know, now with some young riders coming through and winning it, you know, it's just going from strength to strength.
Kelvin, is Grand Prix Speedway racing changing the whole shape of the Speedway world? Are we going to see everything fall into line? We heard Gary say there that it might not fit in with the seasons of other countries and the like, but so what? What if the Grand Prix become the premier race series of the year and everyone has to fit in behind that? Just one for you there, Kelvin.
Yeah, that's a difficult question to answer. I don't want to pour cold water on the Grand Prix because what we've seen here tonight is fantastic. But the FIM have got to look very hard at themselves as well. They actually caused a problem this year that could well have, you know, have undone all the good work of last year. I'm not so sure if Speedway Grand Prix is ready to go year-round yet. Because for the guys further down the list, from 8 downwards, they're not earning a lot of money. And for guys to give up their league racing and domestic racing for full commitment for a year-round race, would be very difficult unless big sponsors came in to support them with teams so they were guaranteed an income all the year round. Just to ride in 12 Grand Prix at the moment, the way it happens is I think you'd find guys wouldn't be able to commit themselves to that. So that would be another stage, but it's certainly a possibility. But with domestic racing and the Grand Prix, right now, most guys have got to combine the two to be able to afford to do it.
Well, Barry, we don't mind nights like tonight, that's for certain, do we, really?
No, I mean, say that Speedway's got everything, you know, compared with the car racing. I don't think there's any motorised sport that the competitors put their lives virtually on the line every race and for the points. I mean, so they're real heroes, but it needs to get to the general public more. It was big time with 100,000 people, and last week I was in Poland for a league match with 30,000 people, and that changes the whole concept, the excitement and the enthusiasm.
It's back now, though. It's definitely back now.
It just needs the sponsor to get on board and say, this is it, and go with it. And it could do a lot of meetings.
Well, the next bikes you can see here on Sky Sports are back on the tarmac. Assen, will Carl Fogarty retain his World Championship? And like tonight in Hackney, this could be the meeting that determines that. From Assen, Sunday the 8th September, you can see it live. But the next Speedway, the final round, Danish Grand Prix, Saturday the 21st of September, 9:30 p.m, and you can see it here exclusively on Sky Sports. My thanks to you 3 gentlemen for joining us. It's been a great night here. And my thanks, of course, for you watching. We've enjoyed ourselves. We hope you have.
Big-time boxing live from Dublin over on Sky Sports 1 right now, with top of the bill Prince Nazim Hamid versus Manuel Medina. Currently on Sky Sports 3, it's Rugby Union Update, and next here on Sky Sports 2, later than scheduled, highlights of today's cricket between England and Pakistan.